I know you heard me on the radio. Flexing, she loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio. Flexing, she loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.
Fury fam, Dolphins fans all over the country, all over the world, welcome to another episode of Phin-Addict Fury. Well, actually, it's not an episode of Phin-Addict Fury, is it? We're on the Phin-Addict Fury channel, but this is another episode of LG Shaking the Panel, and I am your host, Larry K. What's up, Cap? What's up, Scott? DTA was in here. What's good, everybody? We are talking Miami Dolphins tonight. We are talking this franchise that just keeps letting us down. We are talking the ins and outs. We are talking what should happen with this coaching staff, what should happen with this quarterback situation, what should happen going forward, and what might happen on this last hurrah against the New York Jets, where we went from 8-3 this season, a shoo-in for the playoffs. A team where if you were on ESPN or some other network and they were asking whether the Dolphins would make the playoffs or whether there was any risk that the Dolphins wouldn't make the playoffs, people were chuckling and laughing like, of course the Dolphins are going to make the playoffs. Look at their record. How could they miss it? But now, I'd say our chances of making the playoffs are below 50-50. We've got to beat the New York Jets. We haven't won a game. I don't know. When's the last time we won a game? Thanksgiving weekend? We haven't won a game in forever. Got to beat the New York Jets. They want to play spoiler. They got a really good defense. We're on our third-string quarterback. Our first-string quarterback couldn't even get it done. Now we're on our third. And not only that, to add insult to injury, we got to get help from the Buffalo Bills and the Bills Mafia. They got to beat the New England Patriots. So we got to beat the Jets. They got to beat the Patriots for us to get in. I'm not liking our odds. And even if we get in, I don't know that I care, because what are we going to do in the playoffs? But I'm going to tell you guys something, man. I'm going to tell you something about this channel, about this show. This is the no excuse zone, okay? There's no excuses on this show. I'm sick and tired of hearing people say, well, Larry, you just got to get the defense. The defense just has to get straightened out, Larry. If we straighten out the defense, then I really think Larry just got to get Tua healthy, Larry. We just got to get Tua healthy, and if we get Tua healthy, then Larry, I think we've got a good shot. Larry, McDaniel was his first year, and the offense was hard to learn, Larry. And guys, this channel is the no excuse channel. This is the no excuse. I ain't gonna give excuses to this franchise anymore. I gave this franchise enough excuses, and I'm sick of giving them excuses. They don't deserve excuses. They don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. They don't deserve any of that. This franchise has absolutely fell flat on their face. Okay? Flat on their face. And the only reason people give this franchise excuses, I understand why. It's not that I don't understand. I can conceptualize why. I'm cognizant of why. It's because you're a fan, right? If you believe this team sucks, what are you going to do? What are you going to do all offseason? What are you going to do next season in September? What are you going to do in the preseason? What are you going to do on draft day? If you think that they're hapless, if you think that Mr. Magoo just sucks at his job, this friggin' guy, if you think he sucks at his job, then how are you going to get excited? I mean, I get it. I get it. So because you want to get excited, because you're a fan, you want to have fun, and you just can't allow your brain to give you a dose of reality, which is that, there's not a lot of hope right now with this franchise. You got to come up with things to make yourself feel better. It's out of desperation. I understand it. So you got to convince yourself that there's a chance next year. You got to convince yourself mentally that, yeah, Tua was just injured, or, we just need a new defensive coach, or, McDaniels is going to improve because it's only his first year. And you got to convince yourself of those things to keep going. I get it. I understand it. I just don't agree with it, you see. You see, I love the Miami Dolphins. Mark, what's up? Welcome. Welcome to the Fury Fam, Mark. Everybody welcome Mark to the Fury Fam. He's a new subscriber. And by the way, if you guys have not done so yet, thank you, Mark, for reminding me. Hit the subscribe button right underneath me. Smash subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. Smash subscribe, hit the like button. Let's get this thing going. Let's smash that like button quite a bit so we can get some more people in here before we really get going. Let's really get going here. And look at this. Like, as we're getting going, like, I barely even started yet, and John from Seattle, who you all know, who I can't wait to talk to, actually, John comes up in here and just drops a $22 super chat on this channel. And he's already given me, I don't even know what's about. It might be for the swear jar. I don't know. But John just dropped it. And John, we sincerely appreciate that. Because we not only appreciate the donation, sir, but we appreciate you on this show. You're an integral part of this show. We appreciate you on this channel. So, thank you, sir. And he says, Larry, something that separates your show from others is the emphasis on clean content. Why is clean content important to you? With love and respect, John. Well, it doesn't have to be completely 100% clean all the time. But a lot like TD. TD likes to just keep the F word off his show. I'd prefer to keep the F word off the show as much as we can. And the reason is, it's okay if once or twice it gets dropped. And I've never heard anything terrible when that happens. But YouTube will restrict the video. So you won't get ads on my video, and you won't get enough, you know, it won't show the video to a bigger audience that could possibly watch it if there's too much cursing in it. As YouTube has like a algorithm that picks up on that. So it's just one particular person who's a great member of Fury Fam, who we all love, but he's constantly dropping F, and one time he dropped so many. And YouTube, like within an hour of the video going up, YouTube was like, you got to stop. Like, we're restricting this video. So that's why I just wanted, doesn't have to be ridiculously clean. It's just, you know, we try to keep it a little bit cleaner so that we don't get dinged that way, John. But I appreciate the super chat and, you know, the swear jar and everything else. And, you know, we could talk freely as adults. I just, you know, we just can't be too much. That's all. And that's TD does it too, and I don't know why other people don't do it. But then you got people like Dougley. Dougley doesn't have a lot of panels, so he doesn't really worry about it, you know. And then you got the tailgate. I don't know what you know, if they care how they conduct stuff over there. It's generally not too bad over there. And if you think about it, Big O, you know, he'll drop you could say the S word and stuff, but he's not dropping, you know, too many F bombs. But that's the explanation. And John, regardless, we appreciate the super chat. The super chat is open for anybody who would like to donate. But here's the thing. And Alan, thank you very much. And we love you. Fury Fam loves you, Alan, for joining us all the time. But look, this is a no excuse channel, okay? We're not interested in excuses. And here's the thing that kind of irks me, right? At the beginning of this season, most people were on the same page. Not all people. But from the two-and-ears to the pessimists to the, you know, objective fans to the casual fans to whatever it is. Listen, Chris, the Fury Fam friggin' you're in here. If you're in here, Chris, and you're talking, then Fury Fam loves you. If you're in here, you're in Fury Fam unless you haven't subscribed yet. And if you haven't, shoot, subscribe. Fury Fam loves all of you. He's at the grocery store right now. He's shaking his head. I mean, shoot, we love you. But here's the thing. People at the beginning of the season were pretty much on the same page. You had a couple, like, extreme two-and-ears, if you guys remember, in preseason, who were already trying to line up some excuses a little bit. And thank you, Chris. We know you. You're Fury Fam all day, Chris. Bleezy's in here. I mean, shoot. But they were already trying to line up. Well, the O-line isn't too good. Don't get too excited. Well, the defense isn't too good. They were trying to line up some excuses. But for the most part, in this sphere, in this fan base, for the most part, most people acknowledged, look, Tua has struggled down the stretch for 2 years. This is a year he's got to make or break. This is a year that's going to show us how far Tua has come or not. And if Tua does not succeed, they said, I'll admit that maybe he's not the guy, right? And most people said, well, you fired Flores. You fired Flores. So McDaniel's coming in, and he is the coach that Tua needs. He is the offensive-minded coach that's rooting for Tua, that's in Tua's corner, that's, hey, little sport, I like you a lot. He's the encouraging Tua guy. So if he doesn't get it done, we're going to admit that maybe he's not the answer. Nandy, what's up? Hello, hello. We're going to maybe admit that he's not the answer. Because he's got all these, then we got Tyreek Hill and we had all these weapons, and people are saying, you know what? Larry, I'll be real with you. If they don't succeed, if they don't at least make the playoffs, I'm going to call them out. I'm going to keep them honest. I'm not going to let them get away with it. We talked on this show. We went around the panel on this show. Around the panel. And we asked everybody, what is acceptable this year? And I don't recall one person. I don't recall one person saying, well, you know what, Larry? It's acceptable if we go 8-9. You know what, Larry? It's acceptable if we just miss the playoffs. You know what? It's okay, Larry, if we start 8-3 and then epically crash and miss the playoffs. Larry, if Tua struggles against better teams in December, I'm okay with that. No one said that. Not one person said that. Most people said we got to make the playoffs at least. Actually, forget most. Every person said we got to make the playoffs. Every single one said we got to make the playoffs. Every single person said that. Every single person. And then some people said, well, we have to win a playoff game. I was one of them. But we got to win a playoff game. Some people went, well, we got to go to the AFC Championship. We got to win the Super Bowl. I wasn't one of them. I said we just got to win a playoff game. But most people said, you guys were here. Guys, we've been on this show all year. Most people said we got to win a playoff game. Now, all of a sudden, I'm seeing on my channel, I'm seeing on other channels, all of a sudden, I'm seeing all this stuff. Oh, McDaniel was his first year as a head coach. Do you recall any head coachings making the playoffs in their first year? Yeah. Adam Gase, Tony Sparano, and they weren't even that good of coaches. So what are you talking about? Yeah, guys have made the playoffs the first year. Yeah, that's happened, okay? And then it says, well, the offense was too complex for Tua. What? This offense was catered to Tua. This offense was built just for Tua. It's like he walked into a custom car shop and said, make me a car that's perfect for my reach and comfort. And they made it. And what up, Dan? What up, Cap? Ronnie, what's good, man? Everybody, this was made for Tua. What are they talking about now? And they said, well, Tua's injury prone. Tua's got to prove he could stay healthy. He's not healthy. They're using that as an excuse. Well, Tua's not healthy. I know. That's part of the problem. What are you talking about? What's with all these excuses all of a sudden? This channel is the no excuse zone, man. I'm not putting up with it. And I'll watch the Dolphins. I'll talk the Dolphins. I'm here more today for you guys, to spend time with you guys, because you guys are my family. You guys are my peoples. I'm not really here because I really care about the Miami Dolphins right now. To be honest with you, I'll always like them to some extent. But right now, at this point in the season, man, I don't care. I'm mentally moved on to college basketball, man. My college team's doing pretty good. Hockey. Team's okay. Now, I love NFL playoffs. We're going to talk NFL playoffs on this channel, but I almost want this. Dolphins are like a dying horse on the track with a broken leg that you just got to this season. What do you want me to tell you? You want me to lie to you? Want me to lie to you? Because this is not the channel to get lied to. You want to get lied to, there's other channels that lie to you. You can get lied to. Well, I think the Jets are short their QB. Mike White didn't do too good. We could probably pull it off. And if you think the whole Buffalo game mix-up really got Buffalo in a position where we can go. Okay, what happens if we go? What happens? You think we're going to win? What do you think? What do you think? What? Now, people can be fans any way they want. You could be hyped if you're a fan. You could be excited. I'm not telling you can't be. That's your right. You could be excited. I hope you are excited. Just don't tell me that I'm not a real fan, because I'm not. Don't tell me that, because you can't tell people how to be fans, especially when the team has been so pathetic. So pathetic. I'm just keeping it real. And just like I kept it real, I will just say briefly, I did talk about the Skip Bayless injury. And obviously my prayers are out with DeMar Hamlin and my thoughts. And I heard he's hopefully doing a little better, slowly but surely. But I did say, Skip brought up something that everybody was going to be talking about in a couple days, in bad taste. But he brought up something and he said, well, it's obviously irrelevant because there's a serious situation. But people want to go crazy about it. And all I did was call out, okay, guys, can we just keep it honest here? Can we just keep it honest? And that's all I'm doing now. Keeping it honest, man. And here's my thing. I don't care if they keep McDaniel, fire Boyer, keep Tua, bring in a vet, but they better bring in something at quarterback other than just trotting out Tua again. And they better do something with the... Here's the thing. If McDaniel fails to make the playoffs, then in my personal opinion, I don't think that... If McDaniel makes the playoffs without his starting quarterback this Sunday, with help from the Bills, then we can discuss the fact that maybe he deserves to come back. But if he fails to make the playoffs, there is absolutely no reason why he should be safe without any debate. When you come into a team that was already a winning team for 2 seasons in a row, 10-6 and 9-8. And by the way, somebody in Fury Fam commented, because I was saying 9-8 2 years in a row. It was actually 10-6 and then 9-8. It's better than I thought. 10-6, 9-8. You take over the team and they go down. If they lose to the Jets and they go 8-9, you got worse. After adding Tyreek Hill, you got worse. And not only did you get worse, but you didn't have meetings with your defensive staff. Not only did you get worse, but you didn't use your franchise tag tight end who had a bunch of catches before you showed up from that quarterback. Not only did you get worse, but your line was markedly better from previous years, and everybody used to cry about the line. Now the line was very serviceable, to say the least. You got Teron Armstead. Yeah, he was out a couple games. The dude's still a superstar. He's still one of the better offensive tackles in the league. You upgraded your center position. You got decent guard play. You got worse. You got worse. You started off 8-3 and you wound up worse. The home crowds were louder than I've heard in 7 to 8 to 10 years, and you got worse. You implemented a system for the quarterback that you said you could make this quarterback succeed. You told us you could get this guy to get us over the hump with your system and your ability to mold an offense to the talent on the roster. And you got worse. We brought in your running back, Mostert. Your running back, Edmonds. Traded him, brought in your running back, Wilson. Signed Cedric Wilson as a third receiver. Brought in your guy, Sherfield, as the fourth, who jumped him to the third. And you got worse. You brought in Wes Welker, one of the best receivers ever. Sam Madison, Pat Surtain, you got worse. If he finishes the season 8-9, I'm not saying he's got to 100% be gone. But if he finishes the season 8-9, there better damn well be a conversation about him not keeping his job. Because what did he do to keep it? People are still hyped. This is the problem. People are hyped about the middle of the season to this day. Well, Tua put up good numbers in the middle of the season, and McDaniels looked like a genius in the middle of the season. That's great. Do you know how many people we could name across this league that you would not think for 1 second to hire as your coach? You would not think for 1 second to hire as your quarterback? Who had a couple good games in the middle of some season that ended with them not making the playoffs? And let's get that cap. Let's get that trending. Everybody in here, let's get that trending on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Hashtag you got worse. You got lowercase, and then just like cap, worse in caps. We about to do that. You got worse. Hashtag you got worse. Put it on Big O's feed. Put it on the Tailgate feed. Put it on Douglas' feed. Put it on TD's feed. Put it on Twitter. Put it on Facebook. Put it on Instagram. You got worse. Playoffs. I want you to say it that way too, just like in Mora's voice. You got worse. Somebody edit the video. Tori or one of you guys that edits video, get me saying that and just start posting it. I'm serious. You have my permission. You have my permission. Use it. Use it in any edit you want to use it in. Any edit. Any edit. Just slice me out and just do it. Slice me out and do it. That's Fury Fam. We about to trademark that. We about to run with that. Because that's what it is, bro. We got worse. And thank you, Devils. Let's go. Let's run with this. Let's make this happen. Let's make this happen. So, we got worse. And people are getting hyped about the middle of the season. But here's the thing. No one ever said that Tua was going to straight suck for 17 games. And Brad Boss makes this point right now in the chat. We never thought, the argument wasn't, oh, Tua's going to suck every single game. The argument was Tua is not going to come through at the end of the season or in clutch games when we need him, whether that be due to injury or whether that be due to struggling play. And if you watch the film, and remember this too about me as you're listening to this channel. And John, thank you again for that super chat. I'm gonna take it off, so if other people want to throw down, they could throw down a super chat. Subscribe, guys, if you haven't hit like. And tag that you got worse. Let's get that popping. I was one of the ones a month ago still defending Tua when he had 2 bad games. Because I said, well, the dude had some really good games. You can't take it away from him. And don't try to start saying that the only games he played well in were bad teams. Don't start making excuses for him playing good. I said that. I was here defending the dude. When he played decent against Buffalo, I was out here defending the dude. But objectively, I can no longer defend him because the evidence is so clear that he suffers from the same limitations he always had, and he's probably not the answer. So when I say it, it's not like I've always been a hater. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan early. I wasn't a big fan before the season, but I gave him a chance to the point I was defending him. I was repping him. I was giving him props. Some people came at me for giving him props. I still gave him props. I went on my good friend TD's show and argued with him about giving him props. So I'm not just out here with an agenda. Jericho, thank you, my friend, for the super chat. Jericho's just been on it, man. Jericho's been donating left and right and just helping the channel out. Jericho, you're much appreciated, my brother. Much appreciated. And he says, it's damn near impossible to miss the playoffs at 8-3. I hate them. You got worse. See? Jericho already knows what's up. Jericho already knows what's up. The hashtag. And Jericho, you're 100% right. It's damn near impossible, to the point that most people in the media, when it was even brought up, laughed at it. Of course the Dolphins are making the playoffs, because who the hell's going to miss the playoffs at 8-3? Who on earth is going to miss the playoffs at 8-3? These guys. And I understand we still may make the playoffs. And if we do, maybe I eat a little crow, but not really. So we miss the playoffs, maybe. And if we make the playoffs, it's with help, which just, there's no reason that we should be relying on somebody to make the playoffs when we started 8-3. But here's the thing. I defended Tua. But here's the harsh reality. And look, I'm not the master film breakdown guy. But just like Jericho's saying, how do you start 8-3 and then not make it? That's what Jericho is saying. He's up on the screen. Pay attention to this man. The way you do that, and I'm getting this, these donations help me. I'm starting to get into the film and get the resources to order access to the film and break things down and get new tools. But for now, if you go to other people who do break down film, Dougley does a pretty good breakdown. TD does breakdowns. There's a bunch of other channels that do breakdowns. It's evident why we went from 8-3 to this, the way Jericho talks about. There's a reason why, and the reason has to do with Tua's limitations. He didn't just magically start not playing well. He didn't start not playing well because of injury, all this other nonsense that's out there. He didn't not play well because the defense wasn't great. None of that. And by the way, speaking of the defense, Dolphinier, what's good? Speaking of the defense, can we stop blaming the defense for this collapse? Here's why. When the defense had their worst games this year, we won the games. They had a terrible day against the Ravens, we won. They had a terrible day against the Bears, we won. They had a terrible day against the Lions, we won. So they didn't cause us losses. Because when they were bad, the offense on our team was good. But in the games when they held teams to 17 points, 23 points, 20 points, whatever it was, our offense couldn't do a damn thing. So you can't blame the defense because the defense didn't cost us any games. Yeah, they didn't play great in some games, but we won those games. We won the games they didn't play great in. And even in those games, they stepped up at the end to help us win. What happened was very simple. Teams figured out, I said this already, but I'll say it again, just because people are not getting it. People don't want to keep it real. People don't want to keep it real. And Dan the man, I appreciate it. TD, me, Tailgate, I appreciate it. I really do. Because we're just trying to keep it real. We're not here to lie to you. If less people click on my channel, if less people subscribe, if more people want to talk junk to me, it's fine. I don't really care. This ain't my full-time job. I do this because I love it. I do it because I love you guys. I do it because I love this team. But I have no reason to lie. I can be unpopular, but I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it real. Teams figured out, and TD has pointed this out, even Doug has pointed this out when McDaniel came up with one way for Tua to succeed, a limited one way. If Tua could make reads pre-snap and motions on offense could throw the defense off and help our receivers to get in rhythm pre-snap, and throw the defense off pre-snap, and Tua could quickly glance off a defender and just fake him without really having to know what was going on in front of him, could just say, well, Tyreek's going to be over there, so let me just look off this dude and just slang it. And I ain't going to lie, Tua had a very accurate pass when he was just slanging it to a spot. Beautiful pass. Gorgeous. And he was looking off dudes and faking them, and his swag was just through the roof. And I'm not even hating on him. He was swagging in those games. When that was working for him, he was slaying. And that's fine. Some dudes, you ever go play golf with a dude who can just drive it? Like, bow. Every time, 300-yard drives, 300-yard drives, 300. It doesn't mean he's not good at driving the ball. He's got beautiful drives. But then he can't get it on the green, and he's skipping over the green, and he's hitting it in the woods, and he's hitting it in the water. He's a good driver, but he's not a good golfer. A dude who could play mini golf. He could beat his girlfriend at mini golf all the time. Man, I beat my girlfriend all the time, mini golf. Then now gets out to the golf course, and every time he hits it, it goes in the trees, hits the tree, hits the woods. He's a good putter. He's not a good golfer. Yeah, Tua's good at throwing a slant in the middle of the field when he's got a pre-snap read. Yeah, he is damn good. And I'm not even going to say he needs great receivers. He just needs competent receivers. He could hit that. He is good at that. But when they limited him, when they took away the middle of the field, when they threw off a receiver just a little bit, and it was a combination. Well, we'll throw the receiver off just an inch. We'll do a little bump and run, and then we'll drop a linebacker that was pre-snap, looked like he was in a different position, drop him back a little post-snap. We'll take away that middle of the field. And when we take away the middle, because this is what football is a give or take game. Football is a give or take game. So when I take something, I'm giving you something else. And that's what coaches are always saying in their coach speak. They're always saying, well, I take what the defense gave me. Take what the defense gives you. Take what the defense gives you. So what are they giving you if they're taking away the middle of the field? Well, a lot of times they're giving you outside the numbers. They're giving you short passes. Here's the problem. Tua is limited. He can't hit those throws consistently. Can he hit those throws once or twice or a few times? Yes. Is he capable? Yes. You can show me a highlight. He probably hit it fine. Consistently, he can't. And we've seen it more than once now. And if he could, then, yeah, maybe he has one bad game. Maybe he has two bad games. But he wouldn't have just endless bad games because eventually we would figure out how to properly adjust. But he hasn't been able to do that. Throwing outside the numbers has not been his strength. Checking down. I know he checked down a bunch last year, and all of a sudden this year he can't. Why? Because his reads in this offense... The reason he checked down last year was because the offense last year, this is another thing people have to understand. Because when I say, oh, he doesn't check down, they're like, well, he checked down last year. You didn't like when he checked down. Now you don't like when he goes long. Here's the difference. Last year's offense was specifically designed to be a check down, short pass offense because that staff did not believe Tua could throw it long, and they don't think we had the weapons. Waddle was a damn near a possession receiver last year. That's because the offense was designed on short passes. So Tua was going with the design of the offense, and he wasn't doing much beyond that. And Marcel Louis-Jacques actually clarified something he said the other day when he said Tua can't make off-schedule plays. Marcel said, I wasn't talking about Aaron Rodgers running around outside the pocket, throwing guys down, taking hits on my legs, and throwing like across my body. He said, I wasn't talking about that. All I was talking about was... off schedule, meaning the play that was called is not there with the pre-snap read. Now I got to scan it and come up with something different. And Tua doesn't do well at that. And he's right, because last year it was a check down offense and he lived within that space. And this year it's a deep middle offense and he lives within that space. Why do you think he forces it to Tyreek so much when it's almost intercepted or it's incomplete when there's three defenders? Because he doesn't know where else to throw it because he's just going to hone in on that initial read. And that's a serious demerit. That's a serious deficiency. That's a serious limitation. Can you win games with Tua? Yes. Can you put up great stats with him while winning? Yes. Can you be a Super Bowl contender consistently with attrition, guys going down, defenses playing you hard, defenses adjusting schematically on the X's and O's side, etc.? That's very highly questionable. Highly questionable. And if you look at Teddy didn't play great. Teddy is not the answer. I'm not going to talk about Skyler yet. I think Skyler's got potential, but I already broke down, he's not the answer right now. But what did Teddy do last game? What did you notice? Did you notice that Teddy was hanging in the pocket, number one? Number two, did you notice that the pocket was really clean for long periods of time and Teddy had a good amount of time to throw, showing you the O-line's not the problem? Yes. What else did Teddy do? Teddy scanned the field for long swaths of time and then checked down to the open guy when it was necessary. He did it more than once. And he didn't just do it for 2-yard gains and 3-yard gains. The defense was dropping back, and Teddy found guys underneath who went for 10 yards, 12 yards, 8 yards. That's what the defense was giving us. Teddy found it, and Teddy ain't even good. Teddy threw a pick six. That basically cost us the game. And he could still do that. So what's going on? So when we talk about McDaniel, if he fails to make the playoffs, then he should 100%, there should be consideration that he doesn't come back, especially if somebody, by the way, Jim Harbaugh is leaving college from reports. I saw speculation today that Jim Harbaugh is looking at the Panthers. But I bet he's keeping his options open for everybody. Apparently he's leaving Michigan. That's the rumor anyway. You never know how it turns out. I'm not saying I know. I don't. But that's the rumor. If there's a better candidate available and you don't consider dropping McDaniel for this better candidate, you're smoking. Especially if he misses the playoffs. McDaniel has not shown us anything worthy of keeping him no matter what. Maybe he's shown us something worthy of keeping him compared to who's out there. Maybe he's shown us something worthy of keeping him if we really decide, based on our conversations and postseason interviews with him, that he deserves it. But he's definitely not beyond consideration to be let go. And we should see who else is out there and what McDaniel says and assess the whole season. But when it comes time for Tua, you can roll with Tua one more year on the team. You can give him another chance, but you better bring in a legitimate contender to compete with him or take his job if need be. I'm not talking about another Teddy Bridgewater who's definitely going to be the backup. I'm talking about somebody with a real shot to beat Tua out. And I'm not saying bring in somebody with a real shot and then don't give him a real shot. I'm saying bring in somebody with a real shot and give him a shot. You better do that. We're beyond the point where Tua just gets the job no matter what. We're beyond it. Maybe he hasn't failed enough to just let go of him. He's still got another year in his contract. And we got Carrie P in here just dropping straight up dollars. And he didn't even say anything. And he's been Fury Fam since birth of this channel. Since the birth of this channel, this dude's been up in here. He ain't playing no games. And I appreciate the absolute hell out of that donation. Hopefully it's because I'm speaking truth. That's what I'd like to believe. I believe I just got that donation because he's putting his money where my mouth is because I'm spitting truth. I'm spitting truth out here. My brother, that is very generous. Very generous, my brother. And that is greatly appreciated by this channel. This channel has been growing, and it's been growing because of you guys and people like that who donate and keep this thing going. I mean, we got to do something. Bro, you can get some kind of, you better come on the panel and just take the floor for like 10 minutes to yourself or something after that. That is some real stuff right there. I mean, that is, there it is. Facts are facts. That's what he says. Facts are facts. Period. Facts are facts. See, that appreciation, bro, that's what keeps me doing this show. That's what keeps me on here. That type of recognition, that type of props. Because this team lets me down, but you guys don't. The fans don't let each other down. That is legendary. That's got to be screenshot, and somebody's got to market that too. Like, yo, this dude speaks truth. This is what Fury Fam does. This is how Fury Fam reacts to truth. This is how deep Fury Fam's love for the truth goes. This is how deep Fury Fam's love for no excuses goes. I don't have a say in this organization. But this platform and all of us, and if the fans speak up and band together and don't let them get away with their nonsense, maybe we could finally move them to do the right thing. But if we join in with the excuses and the nonsense and let them get away with it, then I don't see how they're going to change it up. Why would they change it up? Why would they change it up if we're going to let them get away with it? We can't let them get away with it. So you better bring in somebody that could compete with Tua, and you better give them an actual shot. An actual shot. Not a BS shot, but an actual shot. We deserve better. And the listeners to the media deserve better too. The listeners to the media deserve better too. So if you're a media head out here and you're just telling people what they want to hear, you're not worth it. I'll take one Kari P over 500 BS excuse givers all day. If one person listens to me that respects it that much, it's worth 1,000 clowns who want to be lied to. 1,000. We deserve better. We deserve not to be lied to. Just tell us the truth. Ross, Greer, McDaniel, get on the podium. Get on the podium and tell us, you know what? We want to give Tua one more year. He's got a year on his contract. We're not quite ready to cut him. But we understand his struggles. And so we are bringing in so-and-so. Jimmy G, Gardner Minshew, whoever it is. We are bringing in this person because we hear you. We know. We saw the struggles. We're not going to pretend we didn't. We know what you saw. We're not going to treat you like you're too stupid because you're just a fan. You don't know what we know and lie to you. We hear you. They could easily say that, and we'd all get behind Tua and root for him because we're all rooting for him anyway. But if you lie to us, we've had enough. And I'm about to bring in Shake and Greg and our guests, but I just had to go into that. And I'm glad I did. And I'm glad people are here that feel me on it. Feel me deeply on it. But once again, P, I mean, words don't even suffice for that respect, for that love you just showed. That is deeply, deeply appreciated, my brother. Deeply appreciated. Because a lot of work goes into this thing, man. And I'm glad it gets recognized. And if you guys have not done so, smash the subscribe button. This is a family. Smash subscribe. Join the Fury fam. This is what we do. And we do this all the time. And we do this all the time. This is what we do. And KP, you're highlighted the rest of the night. You just put a comment, I'm highlighting it. Don't even matter. Any comment you put, I'm a highlight. That's about it. So just so you know that. The whole night, you put a comment, I'm a highlight it. Adam Sadowski, love your videos and streams. Fins up. Fins up from Adam. Adam, appreciate the super chat. Really appreciate the donation. Appreciate the love. Again, the money's coming in where the mouth is, man, because we spitting truth. Really appreciate it, Adam. Appreciate the love to the channel. 100% appreciate it. Goes very, very far. And another member of Fury fam. And see, I got a pretty good memory, and I'm good with people. So I know you guys by your names. I know your personalities. I know what you say. I know some of your opinions. Not just when we're on the live stream. I know it when I'm reading my comments. And I see my notifications. Sometimes I can't respond to every notification because there's just so many on some videos. But I try to respond to everybody. Because I know you guys. I know your opinions and what you think. And I respect it. I love it. I love it. I mean, this fan base, and quite frankly, and Marco asks, is that me rapping in the intro? And the answer is yes. That's me in the intro, and that song is called Late Night with Larry K. And it pertains to this show and another podcast I do. And I actually have a third podcast I just started dealing with college basketball. But yeah, that's me in the intro. That music, that's my song. That's my beat. I play the keys, and that's me playing the keys from scratch. I wrote the music, and then I wrote the lyrics. And I recorded it with this mic. The only reason I have this mic is from music, because I've already been a musician for a long time. So that's why I even have this mic. That's why I decided to get up here. And I saw TD, and he inspired me, so I hopped on the mic. But that song is coming out. It's going to be a full-length song on a full-length album. The album coming out is called Life's Legacy in a World Not for Everyone. And it's 50 tracks. 50 tracks are coming out, similar to that sound. This year, they're all recorded. I just got to mix them. Once they're mixed, that album's coming out. I will certainly let Fury fam know when that album comes out. But that is me in the intro rapping. Thank you, Marco. Appreciate it a lot. And I hope it's going to be up for stream. So whatever streaming service you use, just bump it, the full song when it comes out. And I'll let you know when it's out. Just bump it whenever you want. It's on whatever streaming device you have. It'll be just available. So just play it whenever you want. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again, Adam. And KP, thanks again for that generous donation. Now I'm gonna bring the squad on, man. We got Shake. He's back to his old self. I guess he's tired of defending the BS. That's what I think. He was a defense attorney, but I think he just got off the case because there's nothing to defend. I don't know. I'm gonna ask him personally. And I'm going to bring in G. G's working, but he's been chiming on. So I don't know if it's a busy night at the store, but either way, he'll be here. But without further ado, let me bring these cats on, man. Fellas, sorry for the long tirade, man. I just had to go
It's all good, man. It's all good, my brother.
What's up? What's up, Shake, man?
I'm just excited.
Yo, what's good?
What's up, G? So, Shake, what's because here's my thing. When I first met you, I just thought you just switched up whatever. But now I'm understanding there's a method to the personalities and the clothes and everything. So I was wondering if you wanted to tell us what went into today's, Shake Money and just back to the lounge life, bro.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, bro, I'm here to say I hung up Shake Hefner because Shake Hefner doesn't need to come out this year.
Yeah.
My analogy for the playoffs this year is like going to Disney in a thunderstorm.
Yes. Why are your analogies so damn good? Like, and it took me a minute, and I'm like, that is amazing. Like, you're going to Disney, yay, but you can't do anything. You can't ride it. It's not gonna be fun. That's awesome.
So who gives a fuck?
It's all right. That's awesome. That's awesome, bro. I hear you. What's the point, Shake? Like, and Shake Hefner was coming out when we were lounging, we were feeling good, we were playboys, we were smoking Victory cigars, we were drinking salted tuas. Now, what's the point? I hear you. I hear you. I mean, I get it. Yeah. Greg, what you feeling like tonight? I don't know if you could talk to us right now, but
by the way, I got a good
I'm going to the bathroom.
whenever you're ready, bro.
well, oh yeah, well don't worry, I'm gonna put the intro on for that. That's coming next. G, what's up? I don't know. I think.
No, Larry, I'll be right back. I gotta run to the bathroom.
All right. See, G's working.
For itself.
G's work. What goes on this show, man? I'm about to just go.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Tell us, Shake, man.
Well, the good is I didn't drink this bleach. The bad is collapsing five straight times. That's bad. And the ugly, we signed Mike Glennon to our team as our backup quarterback.
And
one thing about Mike Glennon, though, you know he's gonna stick his neck out. But
why do you do this, bro? This is just. That's why you, bro. Like, it's funny because you started coming up on a TV show. I was like, this dude just got to be on with me on this live show all the time. This is why, bro. Like, I can't do that. I could write songs on it, but it takes me time. I can't do that. That was great. I love all the memes coming about Glennon today too, just with the neck. Why is the neck so damn big? It's bigger than the average like human. It's just like anatomically impossible. You're right. We know that. At least he can see over the line, sir. You're right. Sir. You're right. So what do you think of that? Like, I guess it's just out of necessity. I mean, is he the best available? Maybe. I mean, what?
Look, man, and that's why remember I texted you earlier this week, and I stick by that statement. Tua played better last year with nothing than he did this year with everything. And you know why that is? Mm-hmm. Because Brian Flores brought structure, Brian Flores brought discipline, and everybody was doing their job. This year, they're all lax and playing ping pong in the back room.
Yeah.
And they're playing penalties. They're you know what I'm saying? Brian Flores, I tell you what, man. Brian Flores talks, you listen. Mike McDaniels talks, you be like, who the hell are you talking to like that?
Bro, true. But you know what? It sounds funny, Shake, but like in all seriousness, I saw an article in the Huffington Post, and obviously that transcends football. The Huffington Post is not really interested in sports reporting per se. But it was a whole article when they were winning, but it actually didn't start circulating until they were losing, which I thought was funny and kind of ironic. But they were like championing McDaniel's approach as being more like buddy, less of a boss, less of a manager, as if that was like the new wave for this Gen Z or whatever. And there might be some merits to adjusting a little bit from the ultra disciplinarian, but it didn't work, Shake. Like, it clearly didn't work. And like, I even remember, Shake, when they asked about the ping pong table the first time, and he legitimately said, he wasn't like, oh yeah, they probably should have moved it, or he legitimately said, well, yeah, I mean, ask them about that. That's the players. Like, he definitely lets them run their own thing on a lot of levels. And you know what's, thanks, Greg. So, and I think, and Greg, I want your take on this too. We're talking about McDaniel's like management style, but he said early in the year, look, if they think that I can give them something to help them improve at their career, they'll listen to me. And I understand that philosophy. I think it's a good way to approach it, especially when you have a more passive personality. You have to do what you can do, right? However, there's a difference. Like, he took that really to heart. I truly believe, Shake, I truly believe that he goes in there and says, I'm not your boss. I'm not your coach. Like, I am literally an advisor. You guys run the team. I really think he approaches his job that way. And I don't think it worked at the end of the day, Shake. I think there's a lack of discipline, a lack of, I don't want to say fear, but a lack of respect where they're not playing hard because they know coach is going to be pissed. They're like, well, we don't feel like playing today, or somebody fell off, so what are we going to do? And I think it's a problem, Shake. What do you think?
Mike McDaniels is that little league coach that takes their team to ice cream when they lose.
He is. And it's not Little League. And it's not Little League. And it's not Little League, bro, but he treats it that way. Like, I haven't heard him be pissed off in a press conference. Even when they lose. He's not even, doesn't even seem agitated. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just a problem. And that's another thing with fans I want to say is, I will never tell a fan that they can't cheer for their team. I will never tell a fan that they can't be excited for their team. But here's one thing I'm tired of hearing. I'm tired of people telling me or telling anybody critical of the team that you got to get behind your team, man. These are guys playing their hearts out. I'm not knocking them as individuals. I respect these men. I respect them for they obviously put their bodies on the line. They take risks. They're superior athletes doing something we could never do at that level. And I respect that. However, they're getting paid big, big money to do that, and they're grown men. So we can be critical of a team that's failing at the end, and we're not bad fans because we're critical, and we don't always have to be like, whatever, team, let's go. It's silly, Shake. It's silly,
Well,
that
when
mentality.
When we lose 5 games in a row, why should we be cheering?
Right, Greg. Like, right. Why should we be cheering mediocrity and failure? Why? I agree with you. And Jay from Miami Sports, McDaniel will be pissed when he's fired at the end. Yeah, I agree, Jay. If that's what happens, he will be pissed, but that was a learning experience for him. And if he doesn't get fired, I sure hope he adjusts his management style a little bit next year, because I don't think this one worked. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, Mike McDaniel, this is the 2 points I want to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
How does both quarterbacks not get prepared for this game? Even if Teddy didn't get hurt, you should always be prepared. And then the second thing was, I don't know if you guys heard it on the broadcast, but apparently my dad did.
Mm-hmm.
He said on offense, Mike McDaniel just gives it to the play to pad stats.
Wait, so you said, on offense, he gives the play to who, like Tyreek, just to pad stats? Shit, Greg, where'd you go? Did you hear what he said, Shake? Because I want clarification.
Yeah, something about pad stats.
Yeah, padding stats by just passing to certain players and whatnot, right? I mean,
yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to get into like any kind of conspiracy theory or anything like that, but if you think about it, maybe some of the forcing and some of the designs were to pad stats because padding stats in that way makes it look better. I mean, when you're looking, even like Shake, we have people now who are already pointing to stats, saying, well, I don't care if Tua struggled down the stretch. I don't care if McDaniel failed to adjust when we needed to adjust. I just want to point to the stats, and theoretically, they're still like in the top 5 in stats, so they're fine and they should come back. But that's where, like, stats can be useful when you're using them honestly, but when you're using stats dishonestly to, like, avoid the eye test or avoid reality or manipulate stats, like one of the things I can't stand, Shake, because I forget who was the guy who quoted this, but he's like, there's 3 types of lies, like lies, damn lies, and statistics. Numbers are true, they're real. I don't have a problem with statistics, but I have a problem when people manipulate them. Like, You know, people will say, Shake, like, well, if you take out 3 games, then the statistics show if you remove these people, that's manipulating stats. You can't take things out. Then it's a lie, you know? And they do that all the time, Shake.
Yeah.
So that's a problem, too. And shout out to everybody in the chat. I see you guys here. D-Rod says, Shake, that Brian Daboll looking like a genius first-year coach with less. Funny, I kind of was critical of Daboll, and I was critical of McDaniel because I was critical of...
Too.
Huh?
The Vikings coach. Look at the Vikings coach.
Yeah, man. And so So, Shake, too, I was critical of any offensive guru, but let's be honest. Daboll's doing a great job. The Viking coach is doing a great job. And guess what, Shake? They came into a situation that wasn't bad. They made it better. So why is it wrong to expect McDaniel to do the same thing? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
I just don't get it, man.
I'm sorry, but the goalpost is all the way toward the wall. They can't move it anymore.
They can't, but they're trying, Shake. They're trying to move it. And people in the media are trying to move it too. One of the things that's crazy is I was called by one of my own friends that were one of my Dolphins group members, told me that I was obsessed. I was obsessed with anybody who didn't say that Tua struggled. I was obsessed with anybody who just was talking about the injury and not the struggles. I said, I'm not obsessed. I'm just pointing out disingenuous behavior. When you act like it's just the injury and not other struggles, you're being disingenuous. And all I did was point that out, Shake. I pointed it out, and Myselum, and tell me if I'm pronouncing it right, Myselum, thank you very much for the super chat. Much, much appreciated. Your love to the channel is much appreciated. That's why we're here, man. There's a lot of love pouring in tonight because a lot of us are dealing with this together, and Myselum contributes to us dealing with that together by pouring in more love. Your thoughts. When Tua isn't playing, McDaniel indirectly sabotages the team to make Tua our savior.
Yep.
I don't think that he purposely is like, I'm going to screw this team because I want Tua to look better. But I do think this. Similar to Adam Gase. I don't know if you guys remember Adam Gase. He was so locked in his hip with Ryan Tannehill. And if you recall, remember, we have an MO here, we have an owner, we have a management strategy, we have a culture. And this same guy, that same guy, he brought in Adam Gase to fix Ryan Tannehill. And that was his mission, just like fixing Tua was McDaniel's mission. And myself, to your point, I think that McDaniel is wedded to Tua, and so I don't think he purposely sabotages. Here's what I do think. I think much like the Seahawks not giving Lynch the ball on the 1-yard line because they didn't like his media presence, I think, number one, they try to force the ball to Tua in situations like third down, late in the game, in the red zone, because they are trying to inflate Tua's presence, Tua's stats, and Tua's image. But to a greater extent, to answer your question, I think the offense is just catered to the way Tua plays, and when a backup quarterback comes in, he doesn't bother to adjust the game plan very much to accommodate the skill set of the backup quarterback. I think he leaves it the same as Tua. So, of course, Color, what's good, my brother? So, of course, these backup guys are not going to look as good in the same offense as Tua because it's an offense designed for Tua and it's not being adjusted to fit the skill set of the backup. And again, that is the antithesis of what Mike McDaniel said he was about, which was adjusting the offense to the personnel available. He hasn't done it with Gesicki. He hasn't done it with Cedric Wilson. He hasn't done it with Teddy Bridgewater. He hasn't really done it with Skylar Thompson. So to answer your question, I think he doesn't bother to make those guys look as good as they can. Shake, you answer the question and don't be influenced by me. What's your opinion on that question?
On what was the question exactly?
Oh, they want our thoughts. When Tua isn't playing, this Myselum says McDaniel indirectly. So you know what? I missed the fact you said indirectly. The answer is yes. I think indirectly he does. He says, does McDaniel indirectly sabotage the team to make Tua look better than the backup guys by not running, an offense that's best for them?
I don't think so. What I do think is they've been running a certain way. Now, all of a sudden, they got to switch schemes, and he's not quick on his feet to think of something. You know what I'm saying? He's not that. He's like everybody wants to give him the McGenius, whatever. All he planned around Tua. So once that happened, once another quarterback comes in, the game plan goes to shit.
True. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying, right? he keeps everything to Tua. But what about like when Teddy's the starter? Do you think he really caters to Teddy's skill set, or do you think he's running the same offense again, even with Teddy getting the first team reps? Because it looks like the same offense.
Well, I put it this way: when I think when they're in, I think when Teddy Bridgewater's in there, he's just pretty much a game plan that they're going from week to week. Pretty much, they're not using the same game plan they did for Tua. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I don't think it's indirectly, but I don't think that I think he was putting all his eggs in the Tua basket and really didn't prepare for any other quarterback. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with you there, and I think it's a problem down the stretch. Now, Mitch W. says you can't compare Gase to McDaniel. Gase had horrible offensive numbers. We're a top 10 offense with McDaniel. Yeah, well, Jay Ajayi was great under Gase, but it's only because Gase ran an offensive blocking scheme he didn't want to run, switched it back the next year, and Ajayi didn't do anything. But, yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. So, yeah, McDaniel has better offensive numbers, but what if McDaniel misses the playoffs and Gase makes it? Then can we compare the two then? I mean,
man, think about this. 80% of the numbers are two players, bro. That's not really a good offense. When you got 80% of your numbers going through two players, that's not really a good offense.
Great point, Shake. And I saw that on the broadcast the other day, and they were like saying it as if it's so great. But you're right, because Shake, what have we seen? What have we seen, Shake, when they purposely target and eliminate Waddle and Hill from the offense? It's not like we go to other guys. We just don't do anything. So you're right. That's actually a flaw, not an attribute. And Mycelium now says, give me Flores and his 300 OCs. He's saying, man, I'll take that back, just like you kind of said, Shake. I'll take all the multiple OCs over this head coach / OC, who, again, he might be a little more involved in the defense than Gase was, because Gase was literally sitting on the bench when the defense was playing. But how involved is he if he's not in the defensive meeting rooms? And how much of this is an organizational philosophy? Because this is the third time we've seen this offensive coach who doesn't touch the defense take the reins. This is a Ross philosophy, and I hate it.
Yep.
I hate it. But I don't want to, it's been an hour, Shake, so if you want to introduce our special guest, my brother, I mean, we might as well bring him on at this point.
Hey, listen, the Finn's Tailgate is getting new, they're expanding their operations. They got DTA, and they got this guy that I'm going to introduce, all right?
I love their whole thing is dope.
Have you heard of the guy that discovered germs? Remember, are you familiar with the guy who discovered germs?
Yes, but I forget his name. But I know of the guy.
You know, he got put in an insane asylum because he said, if you wash your hands, and they're like, oh, this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
And he pretty much describes my next the guest that's coming up now. All right. He's been saying everything that you've been saying, he's been saying since the beginning of the season. And quite frankly, and another way I like to look at it is, have you ever seen the show Angry Obama?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, with Key and Peele?
Yeah. See, I'm Shake Hefner. I'm not an angry guy.
No, you're not.
So I asked him to come up for me because I need a rabid Dolphin fan. And this is him. He is the rabid Dolphin, none other than my Cuban brother, Luis Amador.
Luis Amador, bringing you up right now, sir. Mycelium, thank you again for the super chat. And Luis, what's up, my brother? Welcome to the show. Sorry you had to wait so long. I was just going in, man. I can't take it anymore.
Larry and Shake, good evening, gentlemen. Hope all is well. And Larry, let me just say that I will sit in the back anytime to hear that rant, man. You absolutely nailed it, man.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. I appreciate that, my brother. Really do. So, and by the way, guys, I need somebody keep posting the Finn's Tailgate link in there, please, and go over there and subscribe to the Finn's Tailgate. I'm a fan of the Tailgate. I'm an avid consumer of a lot of their shows. We've had Color on, and we've had guys on, so always a pleasure to have anybody affiliated with that channel on here. And they drop knowledge, they drop truth, and they're open. So, welcome, my brother.
I appreciate the invite, man. For sure.
Definitely. So what's on your mind, man? I mean, what do you think about some of the rant? What is your, a point you want to touch on? Whatever. I mean, the floor is yours.
Well, I would just say, Larry, again, like, I think everything you said was pretty much on point. And for me, see, it's not even about the concussion because, I've been labeled, and Shake can attest to this. I've
Yeah.
been labeled everything you said, Larry. I'm a hater. I'm not a believer. I'm not this. What I'm not a believer in is this concussion that everybody's talking about with Tua Tagovailoa. I believe this was a benching, and this is why. I think the Miami Dolphins realized that the last 2 games of the season, we just got through New England, now with the Jets. These are the games we needed to win to get to the playoffs. And I just believe they're starting to have rumblings within the team. Certain players, I'll throw out a Tyreek Hill, for instance, or an Xavier Howard. I think they went up to Coach McDaniel, and we've heard Coach McDaniel say this out of his mouth. This is a player-led football team. The organization don't run this. Coach McDaniel don't run this. The players run this. And I strongly believe that the players went to McDaniel and said, listen, this guy's struggling. And I think they lost faith. Just like a lot of people in this fan base have lost faith in Tua. I think the team lost faith in Tua. And I think it was an easy way to bench him, to come out and say, hey, we have another concussion situation on our hand. And again, this conspiracy theory, I'm just throwing stuff out there, but that is my belief. I don't think this has anything to do with a concussion. I think this has everything to do with a benching, in my opinion.
And Lewis, well, one of the things I was saying when the concussion happened is, I don't know if I personally go like they created it, but I would say this. You didn't see anything or hear anything about a concussion whatsoever until it started circulating on Twitter. Then all of a sudden, the concussion was so serious, it definitely happened. That's the reason he was struggling. And, oh, by the way, he's got to sit. I don't know if the diagnosis was under the radar. I don't know if they diagnosed this and it was some of the symptoms or damage from previous concussion earlier in the year. All I know is it's fishy to me that it started circulating on Twitter, and a full 24 hours later, they start saying, Tua, you got to go to the doctor. Tua, you got to go to the doctor. And of course, any doctor in this climate, Lewis, with the way the NFL is hyped up on concussions, is going to put Tua in the protocol if he even has the faintest evidence that he hit his head. So it was clear once that Twitter stuff started circulating that he was going in the portal. So, yeah, I think there's something fishy about it one way or the other. That's for sure, and I agree with that. Shake, what do you think?
I agree. It was. Yeah. I think that as far as Tua is concerned, I think his concussion's so bad that at any minute he needs to rest that thing. It could go off at any minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, man, people don't realize, man, you could live with bad knees, you could live with bad hips, but if your brain goes, you can't live with that. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
You can't. There's nothing you could do, bro.
And to me, you have the injury concerns, but then you also have the struggles on the field. If you couple the two of them, you've got to have some concerns if you're in any way an objective fan with the possibility going forward to him. Lewis, what do you think? I mean, why, Lewis, let me ask you this. You're a content creator from the Miami Dolphins. What is your take on some of these people like Big O and these other people in the media who completely shifted the narrative now from the struggles to the injuries? Don't you think that's disingenuous?
Absolutely, 100%. I think that's what this fan base has done. Again, I've been a fan for over 35 years watching this team. Like, all they do, Larry, is lie to us. I mean, it's and we as fans have bought in so much that we just have that kind of fan base that we're believers. We live on hopes and dreams. Well, for me personally, I'm just tired of living for hopes and dreams because I've never seen at the end of the game when the clock strikes 0, the announcers say, "Oh, this game was won on hopes and dreams." You see what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
It doesn't work like that for me. And when I watch going back to Tua, again, I'm just off of Tua, but with the concussion, see, it's just funny to me why people don't want to start calling out the lies. Because Coach McDaniel had a press conference, I think it was around 4:30, 5 o'clock Monday afternoon, saying that he got report that Tua was self-checking himself in for a concussion.
Right.
That's what he said. Those are not the Rabid Dolphins' words. That's not Larry's words. That's not Shake Money's words. That came out of Coach McDaniel's mouth. Wednesday afternoon, he has another press conference, and he says that now all of a sudden they're watching film, and him and a certain couple players started noticing that maybe Tua wasn't right, and they asked him to report. So right there, that's a lie. We just caught you in a lie, but people don't want to believe that. People still want to believe that this organization is just telling us Billy Gospel when they speak to us. And again, Larry, for me, I just don't believe it. I'm not going to be one of these believers. I'm sorry.
And one of the things I thought was interesting, like, people pretend that these organizations don't have concerted efforts and messaging campaigns the way any other large entity does. And one of the things I thought was really suspect in McDaniel's remarks after he had been in the protocol and he confirmed he had a concussion, all that, is he said it so subtly so that the average listener wouldn't pick up on it, but would still be subconsciously influenced by it. I called it out on the show. He said, well, during my film review that I would do daily anyway, I noticed some inconsistency in play from Tua. So I approached him and wondered if he'd been hurt. Like, that is BS. He saw the video on Twitter, or somebody called him about the video on Twitter. Regardless of whether there was a concussion or not, that's how he found out. But he artfully, Lewis, spun it to say subtly, I was going to watch the video anyway. I didn't hear it anywhere. I was just going through my normal day, wink, wink. And I saw Tua wasn't playing that great. And I said, that's got to be an injury because Tua always plays great. He didn't say that, but subtly, that's the message he was sending, and it worked on a lot of people because now the only thing they say is, oh, the injury. He wasn't playing well because of the injury. That is purposely planted. They had a meeting about what to say. He said what they said. For that reason, I don't care what anybody says. Whether there's a concussion or not, you can believe what you want, but they're messaging it to shift the narrative, and media members like Big O are shifting the narrative on purpose for a reason, and that's the exact reason you're stating, Lewis. That's the exact reason.
Absolutely. And shout out to the homie Color, my teammate at the Fins Tailgate. Everybody check it out and like and subscribe to this channel as well, because Larry's giving you great content. But see, Color made a great point. Before the injury, Tua Tagovailoa was 8 for 12. After the injury, he was 7 for 13. There was no slip in the play. He was playing the same. There was just 3 bad decisions. And I just don't like the fact that we're going to blame concussions or try to use an excuse because Tua made 3 bad decisions.
Agreed.
He didn't play any different. The numbers illustrate that. 8 for 12 before the injury, 7 for 13 after.
Yeah, TD broke it down too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really inescapable. I want to get your guys' thoughts on something Mycelium threw down. He said, what's your opinion if we just show up, all the fans show up for the tailgate, they tailgate outside the stadium, they kick it, they eat their hot dogs, their sausages, their burgers, they drink, but they don't go into the game to try to send a message to the organization. What's your stance on that? I like it. You got to start showing the organization, that they're full of it somehow.
Well, here's, like I told everybody, one thing about Mr. Magoo, you got to realize most of the successful owners of this NFL franchise, the team is their bread and butter. This is his side hustle. This is his chump change. He's in the reason why he's in New York, because that's where his real money is. That's where his bread is being buttered, in New York, not in Miami.
Yes, I've been telling people that too. I live in Jersey, and I've been telling them about some of his construction projects and how they're glitzy, they're glamorous, but they're not necessarily the most impressive with the most character and the most attention to detail inside. I get that from my New York life, and I've been telling people this.
And here's another sign, and I text this to you as well. Another reason why, who his main chick is, his main football team is? Michigan. Because he has Harbaugh. He'd rather have Harbaugh stay in Michigan than come to Miami. Michigan has had more playoff appearances than his professional team. The team that he owns has more playoff appearances than his own team.
You said that. That's something. And Shake told me that this week. Shake just sends me like food for thought throughout the week, which I always appreciate. And he was just like, yo, homie, food for thought. Michigan has more playoff appearances than the Miami Dolphins. And it's dead true.
It is dead true. Absolutely. It is crazy. It's wild, man. It's sad to be a Dolphin fan right now. And not for me, because I've already seen the light. I'm already on the other side. I can see where this team is going. And since we brought up Jim Harbaugh, I would love to hear y'all thoughts on it. See, because when I heard the owner, Stephen Ross, last year come out and say, I'm not willing to be the guy to take him away from Michigan, right? Okay, I can understand that. I don't agree, but I can understand. But now to your point, Larry, if the reports are true where Harbaugh's going to be leaving Michigan anyway, I can't see Stephen Ross, even with a win this coming Sunday against the Jets, and even with a playoff appearance, I believe if Harbaugh's coming to the NFL, there's no way in hell that I can see Stephen Ross letting Harbaugh go to any other team besides the Miami Dolphins. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think he's going to make a serious run. I like Stephen Ross has always been enamored with Harbaugh, number one. Number two, who on earth wouldn't at least consider bringing Harbaugh into any NFL team? So I'd be extremely surprised if he didn't turn that rock over and see if there's anything there. But he's got to do it correctly, meaning what Cap is saying. Cap says, and I'm going to highlight Cap because Cap is a Fury fan, man, OG. If we miss the playoffs, go get Harbaugh. And that's the thing, right? If Ross and Greer truly have this conviction that McDaniel's the guy and he deserves another chance, as long as they give it a thorough look, I don't agree with it if they miss the playoffs, but fine. But if he misses the playoffs and they really don't think he's necessarily the guy, and there's a guy like Harbaugh who expresses interest in the job, make sure you do it right and fire McDaniel first and then do it instead of doing it out from under him, because then if you don't get Harbaugh, you again sit there with pie in your face. You make McDaniel's position untenable. The players tune him out even worse, and you're definitely guaranteeing his failure. So I'm down with Harbaugh 100% as looking at that, and Peyton and any other formidable proven coach. Just make sure you go about it the right way as a professional, because this organization already looks terrible in so many ways. That's what I would say. And Shake, you give your thoughts as well.
On Harbaugh?
Yeah, on Harbaugh, and going about it, because Cap's saying, if we miss the playoffs, and I kind of agree, like, if there's a reason definitely to get rid of him, do it, and if we miss the playoffs, I think that is a good enough reason. If they feel, hey, missing the playoffs bad enough, I'd agree. I mean,
yeah, and again, I want to reiterate one thing about what's worse about Michigan making playoffs 2 times already. There's only 4 seedings. There's 7 seedings in the damn NFL, and we still couldn't get a spot.
Yeah, and I see
they extended it. They extended the playoffs, and we still don't have a.
You still can't get in. And he says, bro, Kyrie says he's tried to get Harbaugh twice already, and that's the truth. So why wouldn't he?
I think he only did it once. He's saying that I don't want to be the guy to take away from Michigan, because he doesn't want Michigan mad at him.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I wonder too last year. So we know he went after him when Sperano was on the team. Here's my question that I speculated last year, and I'm not going to say I made this up because my buddy Zach Santola from the Dolphin Den, and by the way, subscribe to the Dolphin Den on Facebook. He said that last year he was like, I think he's going after Harbaugh, and if I recall, I won't be the one to take him away, meaning I won't go after him while he's content to be there. But I recall Harbaugh was in the news maybe fishing to leave, and then all of a sudden when the Flores lawsuit came out, like the next day he was like, I'm going back to Michigan. So I just wonder if he did try to go after him twice, maybe not actively like leave Michigan, but maybe he was kind of putting out feelers because Harbaugh was going to leave Michigan anyway, and then Harbaugh said no because of the lawsuit. I have no inside knowledge on that, just putting it out there.
Could be.
That could be. Yeah, that's a very good point. Absolutely.
So you never know with that. Now let me ask you this. I know you're out on Tua, Lewis, and I mean, okay. If you got your wish list this offseason, and you don't have to necessarily speculate, but I would like to hear what your thoughts are on quarterbacks, because no one's under the illusion we're going to get the best franchise quarterback ever. What would you do at quarterback? What would you do at head coach? You could even say you would stay at head coach. I mean, what would you do? And Curry says, yeah, there it is. That's what we're talking about. P says so. But what would you do going into next year? What do you want to see? What would give you some semblance of, okay, these guys actually care?
All right, I got three guys. Lamar Jackson, obviously, for the reasons. And I would like Lamar to, if we're bringing in Lamar, I say we keep McDaniel, because what this offense has shown is the capability to get guys open. Right, we see it every game. Guys are running free in the field, and again, just Lamar in this offense, I think you can expand the playbook. See, a lot of people are getting mad at Coach McDaniel, and rightfully so. I'm not trying to give the guy a pass, but I just think that with Tua Tagovailoa, the playbook is limited. there's only certain things you can call with Tua Tagovailoa, and I think the playbook would open tremendously with Lamar Jackson. Now, do I think reality, can we get Lamar? No, not really the picks. I brought up scenario like trades. Let's say that Baltimore asked for 2024 first round, maybe a Christian Wilkins, maybe they asked for a Waddle or a Holland or a Phillips or something like that. And a lot of people tell me I'm crazy because, in my opinion, I would give that up. I don't think we can go get Aaron Rodgers. That would be another choice of mine. Right. I'm going to give you the guy, though, that's more realistic. It's Tom Brady. He's a free agent. You wouldn't have to trade. You can keep the team intact. He's not slipping, man. I know what people tell me. He's 47. He's going to fall off eventually. Well, look at his number. Everybody, all the Tua nears, right? They want to throw out all these stats and numbers. Tom Brady's not slowing down. Did anyone look at what Tom Brady did this Sunday to the Carolina Panthers?
No, you know what? I want you to tell, and I mean this sincerely. I've been wondering because I'm like, well, they're not at the same level. Is it more the team? Is it him losing a step? Tell me, because I've been thinking about Brady too. I think he does want to be in Miami. I don't know if he's going to retire altogether, but I think if he doesn't retire, there's a good chance he's in Miami. So I'm curious about how he's done this year. I got to be honest. I've followed here and there. I haven't followed him as much. Tell us.
And before you go, I want people to realize that Tampa Bay offensive line is worse than ours. But go ahead, Lewis.
Oh, 100%. Listen, Ryan Jensen, their starting center, goes down with injury. He's out for the year. Ali Marpet, he retires. Their left tackle, I think, is Dotson or whatever. He's just a turnstile at left tackle. It's definitely their offensive line is worse than Miami's. And again, I just think that Chris Godwin coming off injury, Mike Evans always, every once in a while he'll come up with a hamstring or something. I just think you insert a Tom Brady, because what this team is missing, and I think Larry hit it over the head in his opening monologue, is what Tom Brady would bring in this offense. He would know exactly what the defense is trying to show, right?
Yes.
Before the ball is snapped.
Yes.
And if you can get a Tom Brady, if you got Tyreek Hill streaking wide open in the field, Waddle running wide open, hell, Trent Sherfield, River Craycraft, Cedric Wilson, anybody. Bro, Tom Brady is going to find the mismatches, and he's going to exploit them all game. And again, remember, Tom Brady is a free agent. We all know he wants to come to Miami. It's been known. He wants to come here. And again, look at Aaron Rodgers. We make a trade, that contract's coming with Aaron of $50+ million. We know what Lamar wants, $50+ million. Bro, look at the track record with Tom Brady. He takes friendly deals to help the team out. You could probably get Brady to come down here for $20 to $25 million a year. I just think with the window of the opportunity that this team is built to win now, to see, that's the argument with Tua. Tua, I'm not saying doesn't have upside and maybe one day can't be a franchise quarterback. But for Miami, he's just not the right fit because we're built to win now. We don't have time to wait for Tua. I'm telling you guys right now, I would just say, let's say you get Tom Brady and you give him a 2-year deal, right? Let's say in that 2 years, he brings 1 Super Bowl. Was it worth it?
Yes.
I mean, I just don't see the argument. So my first choice would be Lamar, obviously, for the reasons. I mean, he's an elite quarterback. He's young. He can make all the plays. I just think that right now, the better option would be Tom Brady. And
let me say this to you, Lewis, too. You're getting some love in the chats, and I agree, too. Bleezy said there's logic to that. Nandi says, and Tom could bring players with him, which is also true, probably on also team-friendly deals, maybe on the defensive side of the ball. Here's my thing. People are saying Dolphin killer, all that. Tom Brady had a tough time in South Florida most of his career. And by the way, he wrote a letter of recommendation for Jason Taylor for his first ballot Hall of Fame induction. And by the way, I hated the dude for a long time, but I dropped my hate once he left the Pats, shut me and a lot of other haters up by winning a championship in his first year somewhere else where the Patriots are floundering. If that man wants to come to the Miami Dolphins for a year, I'm down with it. I mean, I'm not going to say no to that. And you make a great point. If he's got protection and he's got a defense with these weapons, he can make the reads and logically read the field like probably no other quarterback that is playing. And I could see Tom Brady wanting one final swan song to go out on top as the most legendary athlete maybe ever with a Super Bowl win on a team like Miami. You couldn't write it any better. I don't see the downside.
Absolutely, there is no downside. And again, when I brought up Brady, Larry, you wouldn't believe how many Dolphin fans I had. Well, you're not a real fan. He tortured this organization
I
for
don't think
20
he
years.
did. Like, yeah, but just by
But
winning, not even beating us
Like,
all the time, though. Like,
right.
we sucked on
But
our own. Like,
what would it bother anyway? See, why wouldn't you want a hungry Tom Brady to come back and stick it to an organization from, and I'll use their logic that's, I guess, been whooping us for the past 20 years. Why wouldn't you want that guy to come down here and help us, right? Beat them. You know Tom Brady would be foaming out the mouth to play Bill Belichick twice a year.
yes.
Foaming out the mouth.
So the way I see it is, listen, he played football. He beat our football team. He didn't raid our village, and you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I don't get it. Like, and by the way, I don't recall him ever being disrespectful or rude to the Dolphins or their fans or bad-mouthing the Dolphins. Like, he wrote a letter for JT while he was still a Patriot and said he was like the best defensive end he ever played against. And I don't, as a person too, like you said, like, what's so bad? We don't have to swear to hate him. And by the way, I know he was a little younger, but he wasn't as good ever, probably. Brett Favre had an iffy season with the Jets. Then he went to did he go to the Vikings after? I think he did, and had a great season.
Yeah.
He threw a stupid pick at the end to lose, but he took them deep in the playoffs. So, like, it can happen. Just because he already went with Tampa doesn't mean he doesn't have one last year with us.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Scott Jackson in the chat, shout out to Scott Jackson, he makes a great point. Who would you want to teach or to learn from for Skylar Thompson?
Yeah,
you could have
who better?
Skylar Thompson. Who better to teach Skylar Thompson or for Skylar Thompson to sit under than one Tom Brady?
Nobody. No, I mean nobody. So
it's just a no-brainer.
And at that point, Lewis, you're keeping McDaniel. You're saying you're keeping the staff intact when you bring in Tom.
Well, I
what's
would
your
like
take
to see
on that?
Tom, I would like to see Tom in this offense. I think it could be very effective, but I also could see Jim Harbaugh with a Tom Brady. I just think the Sean Payton move, I think looking at the landscape, we're kind of hearing he has his eye set with Vic Fangio. I think they end up landing in the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Sean Payton realizes what they have over there with Justin Herbert. So I think that's off the table. If we can't get Harbaugh to pair up with Brady, I would love to see Tom Brady with Coach McDaniel. Because again, first-year head coach, there's going to be flaws. I'm not saying Coach McDaniel's perfect, but this offense is undeniable when things are clicking. And again, Tua's just limited, and he holds this team back. But if you have this offense, and again, it's West Coast system, we know that Brady likes to run this kind of system or would like to run this kind of system. I just think with this weapons and the innovation that we've seen from Coach McDaniel on the offensive side of the ball, I think Tom Brady takes this offense to a whole nother level.
I can't disagree. Shake off.
And the good thing about Tom Brady is if McDaniels calls a bonehead play, he's like, no, I'm changing out of this.
Great
that
point,
too,
Shane.
bro.
Great point.
And you know what? Another good point is that kind of piggybacks off of that to our earlier point about McDaniel being too much of a player's coach. Brady could be half a coach himself in that locker room. You think they're going to speak up to him? He's an elder, and he ain't going to tolerate nonsense either. So even if McDaniel don't want to do it or whoever, Brady's half a coach in there. I mean, he ain't playing around with these guys.
Absolutely not. I just think that's the most valuable option going into the offseason. It would be a Tom Brady. But again, I would ask you two guys, because I was in a Twitter space earlier, and I kind of brought it up on the Fins tailgate the other night. If Baltimore was willing, and Baltimore said, hey, Miami, Lamar's basically telling us if we trade him to any other team, he's not going, or he's not going to re-sign, or whatever the case. We want your 2024 first-round pick. We also want Christian Wilkins, and let's just throw Jalen Phillips in there, right? Do you make that trade?
No. And here's here's why. Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback, but he hasn't won a Super Bowl in Baltimore yet with a pretty good defense most years. He's athletic. He's a beast with being athletic, but he's not necessarily the best pocket passer. So as he gets older and his legs break down, he's going to be hurt. I'll throw Christian Wilkins. I'll throw 2 first-round draft picks. Or conversely, I'll throw Phillips and 2 first-round draft picks. But I don't want to get to a point where we're throwing 2 of our premier future young defensive players and 2 first-round draft picks for Lamar, because I don't think at that point, with opening those gaping holes on defense, we're going to have – it's a 2-year window, but I don't know if we have the ammo to win the Super Bowl, because if he hasn't done it in Baltimore and we just weaken the crap out of our defense, I don't know if he could do it here. I'd be skeptical of that much. I'd give up picks all day. I'd give up one guy, and I'd cringe a little bit. Giving up 2 of our best defensive players, I think, is a risk, especially because we don't have – those corners are probably gone because they're old. Maybe Trill comes up and whatever, but now you got holes everywhere on defense. I'd be skeptical. That's just me. Shake. Yeah, go ahead, Bruce. Go ahead.
No, I hear you, and I'm not saying that I disagree, but this is the way I look at it, right? If I was going into the draft process, because the scenario I had brought up in the Twitter space wasn't a Jalen Phillips, I said Christian Wilkins and a Waddle, right? If you're looking at it in the draft, what's easier to find if I told you, or what's harder to find? I love Lamar Jackson, a Jalen Waddle, or a Christian Wilkins. See, that's what I would look at, because again, he is arguably the greatest defensive lineman in the game today, which is Aaron Donald. He was in the Rams for all those years, and he was great, putting up numbers, carrying that defense. They never won Super Bowls until they traded for a quarterback. Now, we can argue the quarterback that they went and traded, but they upgraded that quarterback, right, to help Aaron Donald win. Bro, we're not going to, even if we kept Christian Wilkins, right? We're not winning a Super Bowl just because Christian Wilkins is here.
No, I agree with that.
We're not winning.
I'm just worried about giving him away, and I could give him away. I just wouldn't give both of them away. Well, you know what I'm saying?
I know, and I get you. It's a tough situation to be in, but
yeah,
Lamar Jackson is just a franchise guy, man. And when I hear like he hasn't won it in Baltimore, I can understand, but he's never had. If he comes to Miami, he's never had a team like this.
That's fair, especially on offense.
Bro, they give him Bateman and Hollywood Brown as wide receivers. That's not a Tyreek Hill. That's not a Jalen Waddle. And again, when I hear, well, look at the running game they all have in Baltimore. Bro, he is the running game in Baltimore. Let's be honest. He makes that thing go.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that Lamar Jackson in this offense, again, he's not going to be before the ball snapped. He's not going to be what a Brady will give you, right? We just highlighted what Brady can give you. But I just think, how could you defend that team with Lamar Jackson? If you have Tyreek Hill running a go route, you have Waddle running a post route, and let's say they're playing man-to-man coverage. You know what that's showing Lamar? The corners that are playing man-to-man, their backs are facing Lamar Jackson. And there's not a quarterback that I would want in this league with green grass in front of him than Lamar Jackson. I just think this offense would be dynamic with a Lamar Jackson. But again, I don't think that's viable. I don't think,
I agree with you there too. I don't think it's going to happen. I would love a Lamar Jackson. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
Right. That's why I would go get Brady. And what scares me, fellas, and I'll be honest, look at our own division. The Jets have all the ammunition they need to go make a move for a Lamar Jackson. And look at their weapons offensively. Once they get Breece Hall back, elite running back, pretty good offensive line. They got Garrett Wilson in the draft last year. They still have Corey Davis. They have 2 first-round picks they can offer for Lamar Jackson. And you mean to tell me that we're willing to move into next year with Tua Tagovailoa and have to face, in that scenario, Lamar Jackson twice with the Jets and Josh Allen twice with Buffalo?
No, I agree with you. We can't do that. We can't move with just Tua. Cannot.
So it would have to be, again, go get a Brady then, if that's the scenario. I just need someone that I feel like I can win with on Sunday. And as of right now, I'm sorry. I just feel like with Tua Tagovailoa, I know that we have no shot, man.
I hear you. And by the way, somebody says in the chat, for all Brady being old and all that, he still stays healthy and is available, which is more than we could say for our current starter. And then Mitch W says that we don't have a running game. Why would we bring in Brady? Yes, we do have a running game. McDaniel just refuses to call run plays. We've been running really damn well recently, so I don't know what he's talking about. We don't have a running game. But let me bring the panel on here. Let me get it started with Mounty. Mounty, it's been a while. I've seen you pop in and out on some of these days, but I know you're busy and you've had to leave. So what's up, my brother? It's been a long time no talk.
Before you cook, I just want to say this. Yeah. Before you cook, I just want to say this. Even our backups can't stay healthy. But go ahead.
None of them. Ever.
Hey, as I would say in my Zulu tongue as a black man, is grand rising, my brothers.
Yes, I like that. Yes.
How y'all doing?
How you doing, bro? How's everything, man?
Hey
I mean,
man, listen. All I know is if we don't make the playoffs, Mike McDaniel could get the pink slip. And I'm gonna tell you, look, 6 straight losses is completely unacceptable with this roster. I don't care if your defense is this or that.
1,000%.
I that is completely unacceptable. And then the play calls that you call and you allow on defense, like dude, just like I like to highlight all the time when we're in Baltimore. Fucking Boyer calls a corner blitz from the far side to Lamar Jackson. Really?
yeah, bro.
How long have you been a defensive court? How long have you been on defensive side of the ball? I don't care if you've been a quarter or not. At least a DB.
Yes. And Mounty, by the way, I know you're mad too, but we're trying to lower the F-bombs on here because I got yelled at.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
It's okay.
Sorry, dude. I'm still hot, bro.
I know, it's okay.
And then Sunday, you leave Jacoby Myers wide open. Like, come on, man.
Well, yeah,
Where's the leadership?
Here's my thing, Mounty, too. We could complain all day about the injuries, and they make sense. But, bro, Boyer calling those calls is just, it's not good. He's got to go. He's got to go.
He's telling everybody, look, dude, I don't really know what I'm doing. I need to sit under somebody for 5 years at least to learn how to call defensive plays.
Yes. No, I completely agree. We gotta get rid of him too. It's just an epic failure, Mounty, to go from 8-3 to maybe quite possibly missing the playoffs. It's an absolute epic failure. It's really unacceptable.
Well, I would agree. I would agree with Mounty, right? But see, this is the kind of problems that I have, Larry, a little bit. And we're talking about situations. When we talk about the defense is just trash, we all know Josh Boyer is going to fall on the sword. He's going to be the scapegoat. But when we're talking about situations, yes, okay, that's fine. I'll give you. There's a bad on 3rd and 15. We can't give up a 17-yard pass. Okay, I get it, right? But when you look at certain games, look at the Jets when we played them up there. 9 minutes to go, it's a 19-17 game.
Yes.
Right? That's not the defense's fault.
Agreed.
4 minutes to go with the San Francisco 49ers. 23-17. That's not the defense's fault. You look at Green Bay. 3 interceptions by Tua Tagovailoa on 3 consecutive possessions. The defense gives up 6 points. See, I just feel like we come out here and we say, well, the defense is trash and get rid of Boyer. Okay, look at the injury. And again, I'm not trying to give him a pass. I'm just saying we're talking about getting rid of a guy because of certain situations. Well, then that goes to Larry K's point, right? Look at the situations on offense. How many 3rd and 1s and 3rd and 2s does our offense not convert? Are we killing Coach McDaniel for those? Are we saying that we want him out of here? Because, again, if we're just talking about certain situations, yes. But those things happen in the game. I just don't want people – I think, in my opinion, when I look, again, we're not a defensive-minded football team like we were with Brian Flores. This is an offensive-minded football team. I'm not going to kill the defense for taking a couple steps back when the offense really has been the problem this season.
And number one, Mike McDaniel said in his opening press conference that the defense might take a step back or two. And number 2, one thing, I'm going to give a shout-out to Batman. He's going to be on a little later. He had on the space today, and I was trying to communicate this with Rabbit Dolphin Lewis, that, you know what, at the end of the day, the head coach calls the practices. He's the one that builds the structure. He's the one that builds the discipline. The defensive coordinator, all he does is scheme the plays. If the players aren't in their spots, that's a head coaching issue. If the defense isn't being disciplined and playing with fundamentals, that's the head coach who needs to orchestrate better practices and things of that nature. So at the end of the day, it falls. If the offense fell on Brian Flores last year, guess what? The defense is going to fall on McDaniels this year.
Great point, Shake.
And I would say this too, just to kind of piggyback off what Mounty, Lewis, and Shake kind of said. You guys know what I said about, like, I don't like blaming the defense for this season as the scapegoat because let's face it, like you just pretty much said, Lewis, They weren't the reason we actually lost most of the games we lost. They were terrible in games we actually won. But to Mounty's point, there's still plenty of merit that he's got to go because he still made some very questionable calls. But to your point again, Lewis, I think they're going to use him as the scapegoat and trot out the same thing as last year, which is my worst fear, because they're going to say Tua's just injured and Boyer was terrible and we had injuries. And if they do that, that's when I get on here and start going nuts and taking them to task. Because it's one thing to fire Boyer and still make changes with Tua and whatever, maybe bring in a higher caliber defensive coordinator. It's a completely another thing to get rid of Boyer and pretend that he's the scapegoat, which I 100% can see this organization doing because they've done crap like that before. We could see it a mile away coming down the pike. We can. And it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. So anyway, Johnny Boy from Seattle is now in the building with his background, with his hat, ready to go. What's up, bro? What's on your mind?
And by the way, John, DTA's from Seattle too, right? Is it Lewis?
Yeah, he's from he's not from Seattle, but he's from Washington. I think he's from Eastern Washington, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I believe it's Washington.
Yeah.
Yep.
John, you can't hear you, sir.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear him. For crying out loud, sir. Jesus. And I see, so Anthony Manzano asked, Larry K., did you guys see the reports coming from Bleacher Report and Yahoo saying that our front office and our ownership are trying to find a way to trade for Aaron Rodgers in the offseason? I did not. I saw some speculation about Ron wanting to come here. I have not heard that we were actively trying to pursue him. We're going to start. I'll say this. I wouldn't be surprised if we were looking into Ron. I'd be down with getting Aaron. I just wonder if, not that. We're going to be getting a lot of reports all offseason about who we're going after, what we're giving up, what the discussions are, who's on the block, whether we're moving on. Some of it's going to be true, some of it's not. We're not going to be able to tell what's true and what's not. All we're going to be able to do is talk about it on here until it happens. But I'm just saying there's going to be a lot of rumors. We can all discuss the merits, but we're really never going to know unless it's finally reported, and it's confirmed. But that's one report that's out there. I'm not surprised. They're going to link a bunch of quarterbacks to us. We need one.
I was actually.
Hold on.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so I had heard, sorry about that, but I had heard you guys kind of talking earlier about bringing in like a free agent quarterback, and I was just, what the heck? And I was cruising online, looking up the 25 best free agent signing quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. And, the Dolphins don't have a single one of those. So it's just like in the draft or whether it's a free agency, it just doesn't seem like we hit. And, I want to see a different quarterback in here, obviously, but I look at the guy Lamar, and he's tied to the Ravens. So I think, the Ravens also have to agree to let this guy go, unless Lamar says, look, I'm going to Miami and that's it, and make it happen, and I'm not playing. If he does this whole thing, then okay. But if he doesn't throw a stink about that, why in the world would the Ravens work with us? I mean, what, because of Christian Wilkins? I just don't see why the Ravens, and put this in hindsight, look at a team like, the Seattle Seahawks. We had mentioned Seattle earlier. They have a ton of draft capital from unloading Russell Wilson. All right. So they got all these number ones, number twos, all this stuff. Why wouldn't the Ravens be more interested in making a deal with someone like Seattle? And I know we had kind of mentioned the Jets or someone like the Jets, so I just don't know that we're a serious player in the Lamar sweepstakes, although he'd be great. And Aaron Rodgers, if he's a free... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lewis.
No, I was just going to say, to your point, it's kind of... If we see a Deshaun Watson, remember, Deshaun Watson physically came out and said, rumors were reported, but we all know his number one destination was Miami, right? If Lamar Jackson tells Baltimore, hey, you can trade me to Seattle, right? That's fine. But I only have 1 year left. I'm not signing the extension with Seattle. You can send me to the Jets, but I'm not signing. Once the Jets in Seattle catch wind of that, they're not trading. See, if Lamar does like a little
exactly.
If Lamar tells Baltimore, hey, I only going to Miami. That's where I want to go. That helps us in the negotiation. Maybe we don't have to give up, to Larry's point, maybe we don't have to give up so much for Lamar, right? But the ball is, I would agree with you, John, the ball has to be in Lamar's court. He would have to tell Baltimore, hey, or tell the other teams trading for him, hey, I'm not going to re-sign with you.
Right. And the other side of that equation is he'd have to, like, what does he see in Miami that he thinks he could really flourish? You know, I granted the area is the key here. Is this really the team for him, you know, long term? I mean, we've got all this salary cap tied up. Our draft picks are freaking gone. You know, bringing him's going to handicap us further. So I just got to really think about Lamar's long term and whether he thinks Miami's a good fit. Geographically, sure. But is there, I mean, honestly, is there any other reason than geographic? And that's my hard time with him, with any of these other free agents that are not free agents, with any of these other quarterbacks on existing teams that require some type of, you know, exchange. I just think we're going to be SOL on that, which is unfortunate. But I mean, my goodness, we got to do something. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of touch on that. And then Greg, I know Greg's in here. Has he got anything to say? Because I was been dying to hear what's up with Greg.
Well, there was phones going off in the back of the store there.
Yeah. So yeah.
Greg, what's going on, man?
Yo, what's up, y'all?
Greg's at the airport, I think, right?
Yeah,
Greg,
yeah.
you come to
Dude, I
Miami?
wanted to go to the airport so bad with a paper bag over my head, but I didn't want to. Bro, they would have arrested me if I went to the airport.
See, it's just a bad idea. We're just too angry right now at these Dolphins. We're just too angry at these guys to show up anywhere near Magoo. Imagine if you see Magoo in the street, man.
Bro,
look, I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. We get Lamar Jackson, and we keep McDaniel. That's all McDaniel has to do from there on out is to get it. And Flo has shown us for 2 seasons to get a fucking defensive coordinator that has a clue. Once we get a defensive coordinator that has a clue, it's a wrap.
Yeah, I mean, if we have the quarterback too, and then Greg is whispering Robert Saleh. Meanwhile, Robert Saleh's over here with the Jets and Breece Hall doing work.
He may get fired.
And if he only had it, and Mike White came and didn't do too good last week. I mean, if he could only get a quarter, like that's the thing too. Got to remember, yeah, you pay higher taxes with the Jets. The Jets aren't as glamorous an organization as Miami, but let's face it, they got a great running back, a great defense, a coach they believe in. It's still New York. People are going to want to go there too. That we got to compete with the Jets for quarterbacks.
I don't think Saleh gets fired.
No, he ain't getting fired.
Yeah.
How do you fire him with no quarterback?
He ain't getting fired because, listen, I'm up here, too. In the media circle up here, there is not one media personality in the entire city of New York, state of New Jersey, or state of Connecticut that is calling for Saleh to get fired. It ain't happening. They like him.
You know what? And I think that's a good comparison to our team. And I don't know a lot about the guy, but what I do see of him, I seem to respect him. And he seems to be accountable. I think that's a big word around here right now. And I look at our team from Chris Greer to Stephen Ross, heck, even to Coach Mike. There doesn't seem to be any accountability or taking ownership of anything. I swear. Everything is being swept under the rug about this entire situation, and I'm honestly, I'm so sick of it. This year has honestly hurt my Dolphin heart, unlike any other year. I feel a bit damaged by the team. I feel like I've lost love for the team, frankly.
Me too, bro.
I don't know what it is. It's just because we had this whole thing, and Greer's been behind this whole deal, right? And I haven't heard any accountability from the guy yet on this. But it was the whole tank for Tua. Maybe he's not responsible for the slogan, but he sure as heck went along with it, okay? So we blew up an entire season. We made Brian Flores go along with it, all basically to tank. Then we get the number 5. He puts it on Tua, who's injury prone, who's rather small. It just seems like a blown pick. I mean, we're seeing Herbert going off. Then, 2 years later, basically we have a new coach, and Chris Greer, preseason, loads up on this team, basically sells out everything we got to help Tua. We're going this, we're going that. We're taking anything we can on the offense, right? And then so we get that huge investment. Then halfway through the year, we get another influx of talent and more money going out and more draft capital flying out the freaking window, and no one's being held account. We're sitting here at freaking 8-8. All these expectations, all of this sacrifice. I was a good soldier. I went along with the plan, and right now I'm sitting here like I feel freaking abused, guys. I'm pissed off about it. Frankly, I'm just freaking pissed. And this past game really, really did it for me, because two is one thing, and we all know my takes on the guy. He was out. I was actually pretty excited about this game. I was thinking, okay, well, Teddy. I still had a little bit of faith in Coach Mike. I was like, this is the game. He's going to prove it to me, man. This is that opportunity, and he's going to do it with Teddy. And what ends up happening, there's a freaking pick six, our quarterback side of the game. Then he throws Skyler in there with basically in the fourth quarter, I think he throws 22 passes, completely gives up on the run game. But I just saw like this whole train wreck. It went from beyond Tua. It went from like, damn you, Tua, to now I'm like, damn you, Coach Mike, damn you. And I'm actually not even mad at Tua, because if I really think about this, it's not Tua's fault. There was all this expectation built in, and the guy just walked into, frankly, a really unwinnable situation unless he was going to become something elite, which unfortunately for him, he didn't. Right. So he takes a lot of freaking heat, and I think it's unfounded. And I don't want to, and I'll still give him the heat, but I'm looking at Chris Greer like, this guy's got to take responsibility, and it seems like Tua's getting all of it. So under that premise, he's the guy that drafted Tua. Why isn't he taking at least as much heat for it? Because it seems like a negligent decision. So yeah, not to go off on a rant there, but my Dolphin heart's broken, and it went beyond Tua this week. It's so freaking far. I think what can heal this thing? Maybe a guy like Harbaugh. I don't know, guys. Where are you at? Are you all freaking feeling pretty damaged from this team right now? That's what I'm kind of hearing.
100%. Kyrie says it was. He says it was total capitulation, and I don't know if he's talking about Greer just capitulating to the tank for Tua thing, which the Dolphins definitely did. They succumbed to that hype, and also the game was total capitulation. Just succumbed to the opponent and just surrendered. And honestly, we've surrendered the season at this point. The guys are playing uninspired. We're not even trying to be innovative to get around the injuries. We're not doing a damn thing with it, and we're just completely sinking. And yes, Tua came into an untenable situation because his hype was built up so far beyond him. Of course, he's going to take it. He's going to play his ass off, but he just doesn't have it. Shake, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, I just want to say two things. Number one, 2019, when we had practice squad players, we had more wins in December than this year. And number two, on a 7-game losing streak, remember we had a 7-game losing streak. This team had more fight this time last year than it is now, with even with a shot at the playoffs. Last year against New England, we went into New England. It was at home. Either way, week 18, we played with heart, we played with soul, and we didn't have playoff implications. This year, we have playoff implications, and they look nothing like they did last year without any playoff implications. That should tell you something. But whatever.
Hey, as I said before, and I don't know, Lou, if you might have remembered this, Larry, I don't know if I had mentioned before on your panel.
Mm-hmm.
If we keep Tua, he's gonna come at a price tag. Not only is his price tag, but we got to pay everybody else around him who's exceptional.
Yes.
To be those all-stars to keep around him for him to be effective. That was one of my major concerns, because you got to remember, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm going to tell you something. I've never seen a collegiate quarterback play in college football to have so much talent around him all at one time in NCAA history. And the only piece, I mean, I was a sophomore in high school in 1991. Okay.
Wow.
The only people I can really maybe get close to that is maybe Rick Meyer in Notre Dame, when he had Jerome Bettis, he had Tony Culver, he had Lake Dawson, he had Tony Smith. Dude, I don't know any other quarterback who's had that much firepower around them on their college team in NCAA history. You want to make this guy
right.
And then you get the people that stole this guy that want to make him
the left arm of God. Like, dude, come on, stop. And then he's elite? Really? 2 years in, ain't played a whole season your whole time here.
Well, Mountie, going back to Alabama, see, this is where people just got it mistaken. They make it seem like like Tua turned Alabama around. Let's just go through the timeline. A.J. McCarron, before Tua even was a thought at Alabama, was winning national championships over there, right? Let's do watch this, and you tell me if Tua Tagovailoa did what everybody makes it seem like he did at Alabama. Before the season where he started, when he came in at halftime in the national championship game, right? He didn't play a single down for that Alabama team. That was all Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts did get benched. Tua did come in and win the national championship. Let's go back to the next year, because on the Finn's Tailgate, one of the shows I did, I just said that Tua Tagovailoa has shown, even going back to college, he can't win the big games. Bro, the year that Tua Tagovailoa started that year at Alabama, yeah, the numbers and everything was great. But look, the big game against LSU, which they lost, right? He had numbers, but again, they didn't win that game. Mm-hmm. The game before the national championship game, they played Georgia. People don't want to remember, Tua Tagovailoa got benched for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts won that game for them to get to the national championship game. In the national championship game, Tua Tagovailoa comes back against Clemson. They lose that game. Bro, Tua never won a national championship, a team that he led. He came in and won one.
And
again, with no film, no nothing, right?
Hey, Larry, could I say something?
And then
give me wait a second.
Look at the year, right? And this is where the hypocrisy is in our fan base. Because if you let our fan base tell you, Mac Jones is not an elite quarterback. He's not a franchise quarterback. But the year after Tua Tagovailoa left Alabama, Mac Jones won a national championship.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So where's the hypocrisy at, Larry?
Well, 2 points.
Way to put that in proper context, Lou. I applaud you. That's one thing that a lot of people in our community, probably other than us on this panel and some others, don't know how to quantify and contextualize information.
So true, Mountie and Lewis. So true. And you look at Mac, that's what I say to everybody. I'm like, if Tua wasn't on our team, you wouldn't be scared of him. Look at Mac Jones. He broke some records, I think, from Tua the next year in Alabama. And by the way, even when he came into the national title game and won, he threw I think 2 picks. And he had a nice run, like where he passed and the guy ran, and then he had a bomb. But it wasn't even like he came in and was just an absolute surgeon either. But with that being said, I'll let Tony go. But I was just going to say, Mountie, I co-sign what you said to Lewis, man, and I co-sign what you said, Lewis. True.
Oh, hey, Mountie, I wanted to answer your question, actually. I can go even further back. Like you said, Rick Meyer. I say Vinny Testaverde and Gino Torretta for the Hurricanes. They had a whole bunch of talent around them in the 80s, and they didn't amount to anything in the NFL. Remember Torretta and Gino Torretta and Vinny Testaverde? And Ken Dorsey in the 2000s?
Well, how about Ken Dorsey?
Got it.
Ken Dorsey never had anything. Look at Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey never made nothing in the NFL either, and he played.
Great point, Shake.
And Matt Leinart was the biggest hype dude ever, like he says. And
hey, Larry, what I was asking you, can you guys, as football fans in general, can you explain the double standard when it comes to the NFL punishing for the same exact thing? The police actually there's police records of Robert Kraft in Miami and in New England for the sexual misconduct stuff, yet he only got a slap on the wrist and a fine, yet a guy like Deshaun Watson gets suspended for a whole year, half the season. Can you explain the hypocrisy and double standard for those suspension, that the same punish, 2 different suspensions?
Well, I'll say number one. First of all, Randall says he apologizes as a Niners fan for our downfall. And, sir, I thank you for the apology, because it's really not nice what you did. That's what McDaniel would say, because McDaniel apparently told Justin Fields, please stop tearing us up. So maybe he would say, sir, why did you ruin our season? I don't know, Randall, but apology accepted, because that really sucks. And, yeah, you exposed Tua. And at least you let us all out of our illusion early, which I guess we were due for. So, Randall, thank you, and thank you for the apology. And as for Kraft, bro, that is the most, corrupt, rich guy getting out of trouble thing I've ever seen. I remember when he got a lawyer and all of a sudden the judge suppressed the tapes. And let me just quickly explain something, and then I'll get to color because he's on here and he's been waiting patiently. I didn't scroll down enough. But people were coming at me because, again, people just have trouble appreciating nuance, I feel, in life. They kept saying, whenever I would say it was such a travesty that the videos got suppressed, everybody was assuming that the videos were suppressed in terms of public consumption. Like, the media couldn't show them. They're like, no one wants to see his old ass. I'm like, bro, they suppressed the videos for purposes of court proceedings. They suppressed the videos as evidence of a crime. And I don't recall all the details, but what I do recall is that I'm pretty sure the cameras were placed in there for a legitimate purpose pursuant to a legitimate warrant signed by a judge legitimately, and if he was caught on camera participating in the illicit activity, it was 100% admissible. I have no clue why that was suppressed, but because it was suppressed, Kraft walks away scot-free and Deshaun goes through what he did. I'll just answering your question. I thought it was a travesty as well.
I'll tell you this. Robert Kraft is one of the 32.
Robert Kraft
one of the 32 Illuminists. Okay, now Larry, I'm sure you know, as being an officer of the court. Look, judges are they're there to hand down, to administer justice. Now, however, they can be also manipulated, as we also see all the time. When you have big and powerful people who have really big checkbooks, really big influences around the world, dude, these judges can be like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to suppress everything and kick all that out and kick that evidence out. So basically, it pigeonholes the freaking prosecution to where they can only prosecute, a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, and we've seen judges manipulated before and corrupt before. We've seen it, so it does happen. I just thought it was a travesty, and the fact that everybody ignores it now and just acts like he's a sweet old man is silly. That being said, Color, what up, my brother?
How's it going, Larry K?
Going pretty good, bro. How's it going for you?
I'm pretty good. I don't have too much time, but I did want to come up and give you a couple cents, if you don't mind me giving some.
Yeah, man.
So I do believe, like Lewis, and I've been on the record several times, I've never outright said it because you know what kind of backlash you get when you outright say things.
Yes.
But there was a method to my madness of continuously pointing out the player personnel decisions in particular football games that we lost this year without our starting quarterback. And, I just consistently pose those questions because until somebody gives me a legitimate answer besides Skyler worked better with them in practice, I don't accept that answer. You know what I mean? Because, that's just a moot point. But so I do believe that it may not be direct. It may have been indirect just as an overall, momentum of policy when it comes to the bureaucracy that is the Miami Dolphins. Could have been unavoidable, but that's all neither here nor there at this point. As far as Coach McDaniel goes, I think that the only things, I don't even know if his job is saved. When they put out the rumors that Ross is it, okay, if we don't make the playoffs and we finish 8-9, then he's done, right? Well, you have to. I still don't trust Ross as far as if he still gets a wild hair up, regardless of how we finish out, whether he'll pull that trigger or not. But let's assume for a second Mike McDaniel is going to stay. Then in that case, we've all talked about the different quarterback options. And I was wondering, is there a reason you guys think that, we put out the two big names, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, and everybody seems to be accepting of them. 55% of us are accepting of Lamar Jackson, but the first question you hear is, we can't afford his contract. Does that apply as well to Aaron Rodgers? Because you don't ever hear that pushback when everybody's like always, yup, with Aaron Rodgers. Is that even a possibility, first of all?
Rodgers, because of the contract, that's a big consideration. It's a good point. He's going to command money too.
Not that I care. I'm not
Yeah.
one of those ones that harp on that. I just don't know why that argument doesn't get put out there for Rodgers, but it does for Jackson. You know what I mean?
It should.
Well,
it should.
well,
I think a trade
I
on top.
think-
Well, no, we got to trade for Rodgers too. So you're right.
What's going on, Color?
I think we know. I think we know why, Color. I think we know
Yeah,
why.
we sure, Lewis. At the same time, I think it could be said that Aaron Rodgers might supersede that a little, because if you talk about a guy that can work with less than perfect scenario, it would probably be him. And we don't.
I agree.
I don't think we're going to be. I don't think we have to tear ourselves down to a point of being that bad that it can't even help Aaron Rodgers. You know, we're going to have enough pieces left for him to really do what he needs to do. So that's going to lead me to giving you my prediction as far as, let's say the plug does get pulled on McDaniel. We go 8-9. We don't make the playoffs. He's fired anyway. Or even if we do, and Stephen Ross still has other plans, and he gets fired.
According to my sources, Stephen Ross has sent a blank check to Jim Harbaugh's office.
I don't believe so. I think I can list you about 4 or 5 reasons right now why I think it's almost a done deal, in my opinion, that Jim Harbaugh will be the next coach of the Detroit Lions. But I'm
hearing a lot, Color. I'm hearing you say that. I heard somebody say Panthers today, and then somebody I think on this panel said Chargers. I have no idea, but I'm just curious.
You got to look at it like there are reasons to install him in Miami if, let's say, his daughter takes over and all that, basically to set her down the right path in her first year as owner with somebody that he trusts. I can see that, but her fingers are dipped way deeper in the city of Detroit than it is Miami. And with what he's doing there philanthropically to the city of Detroit, I just don't see how he wouldn't want to guarantee that to not that he has any control over the Lions or anything like that, because he's not their owner, but I think he would want to see fit to have good football coming out of Pontiac, formerly Pontiac.
Yes.
For him to usher in what he's trying to do to rebuild Motown, you know what I mean? So, and people can call it, there's a lot of people that don't believe in him, that believe in nefarious motives like gentrification and stuff like that, but that's all beside the point. He is in fact dumping billions into the city of Detroit. And of course, I mean, Harbaugh is a Michigan man. I mean, what can we say? So is Ross. That being said, I think that it's a done deal almost that Peyton would end up in Dallas. And so on that note,
that's really
if you guys tune in to the Finn's tailgate tonight at 10:00, El Capitan's going live. It's been a while. We kind of shut down the tailgate for a minute out of respect. No reason to be partying and having a tailgate on somebody, while somebody's laid up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, that everybody seems to care about deeply. So we didn't want to, whatever. He's going live tonight, 10:00. And if you guys tune in over there, you will hear who I think is actually would be tapped to be the next head coach of the Miami Dolphins. And I got really, really good reason why.
I'm tuning
in.
And
it has to do with our quarterback situation as well. So,
hey, Color, before you go. So does that mean you're out? You're out on Coach Mike?
I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't be hurt if he stayed, but a lot needs to be changed. And I think we do need to bring in some kind of seasoned guy for defensive coordinator that can handle the stuff that can handle the clap, for lack of a better word.
An amen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Speak, Color, speak.
I mean, I was the one in the offseason that said, hey, I don't want a new head coach, because what happens when one of his players comes up and says, hey, I'm dealing with this personal issue. Well, guess what happens? We got a guy dealing with a personal issue on defense, if you know what I mean. I didn't mean to be so graphic, but it was the tailgate, so I was trying to be comical at the same time. I didn't predict that we actually see something like that, but imagine being a fresh new head coach, getting that news out in the public about your safety. or your cornerback. You know what I mean?
Yes, that was something. And X and his, yeah.
So
Color,
Yeah, I mean,
you're always good with the numbers, though. And I don't know if you have them off the top of your head. I know I've heard you plenty of times say it before. What did the Miami Dolphins defense give up per game last year? Points per game?
21.9.
And this year, what are we giving up, Color?
I haven't looked lately, but given that we had a home performance on the road last week, it probably should drop. It was at 24.6. So it should be probably down, I'd say around 23.7 or something.
Okay, you see, this is why, again,
that's also not factoring in the scoring, because when I do my own factoring on the calculator, I give it, I take, if we scored a touchdown, I take that away from the opposing team as scored against them.
Right.
So my points per game is a little different, I'd say, than the mainstream. I don't know how they factor it, whether they factor that stuff in, as well as when our offense is giving up a pick six. Does that go on the defense in the points per game we're giving up? Because I think it's points per game for the team that we're giving up. I don't know how those sites factor it. I just do my own math. I pull up the schedule and I look at and I do the average myself. You know what I mean?
No, I got you. And the only reason I was asking, because again, I'm not saying we shouldn't get rid of Josh Boyer, but again, to me, it just feels like he's being railroaded as a scapegoat.
I agree.
It's like, look at all the injuries he's dealing. Our best cornerback this season, arguably, is an undrafted rookie in Kader Kobe. I just think that he's getting thrown under the bus, and he's really
especially considering Mike McDaniel explicitly warned the fan base that we would see a regression in defense. I don't think 2 or 3 points per game is like as bad as I thought it would be.
True.
And secondly, we're in every game. Two more touchdowns per game by our offense, and we win every ball game.
Color, and you make a great point. See, this is the point I wanted to bring up, because everybody makes it seem like all the playoff teams around the league have great defense. I looked at it today. The average points per game from the Kansas City Chiefs this season is 22.8. Let's round that up.
Right, round up. 23 points per game. You're right, Lewis. I looked at the number myself.
So let's round it to 23. The only problem is you don't hear how bad Kansas City's defense is because they're averaging 29 points a game. You see what I'm saying? It's like, why do we want our defense
and Lewis, I brought those same numbers up, and the follow-up question to that is Kansas City's defense. Good defense or bad defense?
Exactly.
Well, compared to other defenses, it's terrible. There's teams out there holding people to 19 points.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I just think with Coach McDaniel and this offense, they're the ones that get 100% of the blame. I'm not one of these people that's willing to come out and blame the defense because, on a couple situations, there was a couple bad calls and we gave up some plays. Bro,
the defense's job is to react to the offensive plays, stop them from crossing the goal line, and give your team a chance to win, your offense a chance to win. That's their job, and our defense has done it stellar.
1,000%.
Well, in our
that's why I'm out. And that's why I'm out right now on Coach Mike. He was brought in to basically make Tua better, and we were supposed to have a better offense with these investments we put in with bringing Coach Mike in. And we were literally sitting best case scenario, same spot we were last year. So to me, if Boyer goes, Coach Mike has to go because and I agree with you guys. He's the problem here. So I don't know how he keeps his job. I think he's failed.
Those numbers, real quick, Greg.
Sorry, Greg.
I just wanted to say those numbers that Lewis illustrated, those numbers are inflated by fourth quarter collapses, 40 burger by the Jets, 38 points put up on us by the Ravens. I mean, take those games away, and what's our defense doing? Exactly what it did last week.
Won the games and played the worst. Go ahead. Wait, Greg, real quick, then DTA. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this was a point I was trying to make earlier, but I had to help a customer out. So what I was saying was about Mike McDaniel, if you notice on the plays, you can see Gesicki wide open, right? But this is what the announcers were talking about, but I didn't hear the announcers. My dad did know, but I somewhat agreed with him. We see Gesicki wide open, but usually we see the ball goes to Tyreek Hill. It might be because he's padding Tyreek's stats. And then the same thing with the running backs. Like, Raheem Mostert runs the ball good, but then all of a sudden we go to Jeff Wilson, and Jeff Wilson stinks up the joint when we had Mostert balling out. Same thing with if Wilson's good or the other way around. That's why I'm kind of off this guy.
Yeah, I get it. I get that too. DTA, go ahead. I get it, Greg. And yeah, I'm off him in a lot of ways. And if he misses the playoffs, I'm really off him. DTA, go ahead.
Adam Gase 2.0.
Yep.
So, I guess the only thing to piggyback off of everything and kind of echo the only thing that I would think would be the saving grace is it is known, okay, it's been confirmed that when Mike McDaniel first came here, the two things that he had to basically his must-dos in order to get the contract and be able to come here as the head coach was he had to work with Tua. That wasn't up for discussion, and Boyer was not up for discussion. As far as staff, he didn't have any say in that. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't shoulder any of the blame because, in my opinion, this is a team that everything was predicated on the offense. This is a team where you have an instance where we're supposed to be carried by our offense. In my opinion, the defense did exactly what they were supposed to do. We're not supposed to, we're not built like some, and I'll use it again, the Legion of Boom or some crazy elite defense. We're supposed to just lean on them, but the offense is who is supposed to carry this team the way that it is built right now. And that didn't happen. They failed.
And I hate to make a comparison to Kansas City. People might be, why, Color? Why the comparison to Kansas City? That's Patrick Mahomes, blah, blah, blah. Because we literally got their weapon.
Right. Yeah. Well, to John's
that helped them produce the same amount of points last year.
Yeah. We got their weapon, and they're still Mahomes is still excelling without him.
And so what would the common denominator be there, Larry? The head coach.
Yeah, that too. That too, bro. That too. And everybody's involved there, Color. They could use more than him. We can only use him and Waddle, apparently.
Well, to John's point, real quick, the last thing I was going to say is
Kelsey.
Is, to me, it's the whole thing is, especially when you're talking about ending with that record, man, this is an egregious failure.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, hell, even if you beat the Jets and you somehow limp into the playoffs with no ability to actually contend and go in there compete, it's a complete egregious failure.
That's why I don't buy the fact that McDaniel's job is safe if we even win a playoff game, because how else is Ross going to light a fire under McDaniel's ass now if he thinks his job is already done?
Yes.
Oh, well, win next couple weeks and you get to save your job. Just kidding.
Yeah, no,
after you get it done, you know what I mean?
At this point, bro, I don't think we're even making the playoffs, and if we do and that saves his job, that's a problem, because backing into the playoffs at this point and then losing in the first round is still an epic failure. He's got to be on the block.
They put feelers out there to tells me his job is gone already, that they're already off of him.
Should be. He failed that.
Look, they surprised us on a Monday morning with or a Tuesday, whatever it was, with Flores getting fired, and they didn't even care about the backlash. They're putting these feelers out, and they're not getting any backlash. McDaniel's gone.
Yes.
Yeah, and they were held completely unaccountable then too, and they put out a whole spin story, ran Brian Flores' name through the dirt. I can't believe anything that's come out about it. It just, you know what? It really upsets me with how often we get lied to. And looking back on it, Brian Flores looks to be a good coach. And frankly, I didn't have to deal with none of his shenanigans and being mean. So he's all right in my book.
Absolutely.
And the second thing is, it seems in this instance, my goodness, it's not the kid's fault, but so much Dolphin misery seems to revolve around Tua Tagovailoa. I do not know what the heck it is going on here. I mean, there are coaches gone. There is franchise in shambles. I mean, I don't know what's going on with we built all this around this guy, and it's just like heartbreak after heartbreak. And again, I don't want to beat the kid up, but it seems like so much he's got to go. Coach Mike, we got to flush this whole damn thing out, man. I'm so.
What's the old saying, John? What's the old saying? Impressions are first impressions are everything, right?
Yeah. Hey, look, if they run this thing back next year, I'm in a different situation.
I'm just thinking about past quote unquote franchise guys where has there ever been that, like, you know it when you see it. It doesn't, like, the fan base is 100% unified when the guy's the guy. You don't even have to ask the question.
Yes.
Right.
So
I
to
think-
kind of
yeah.
go on
guys,
Mitch's
real
point
quick.
in the
Well,
chat
hold
there,
on.
real quick.
Well, hold on, real quick, DTA, real quick, because I'm gonna hop out of here. I got an early morning. I gotta start my morning early, so I'm gonna get out of here. But I just wanted to send a special shout out to Larry K and Shake Money for bringing me up here and letting me grace this great panel. Again, Larry, from me to you, my friend, you're gonna definitely gain a like, a share, and a sub in me. You got a fan in me. I appreciate what you're doing, man, because, you know, once I started this, I do understand the hard work that goes into this. So
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate you, homie. And again, bro, you got a fan in me. And just for everybody that has listened today and that's in the chat, please share this video, like and sub to this guy, man, because he's giving you great content. And again, what I can appreciate, and this is, you know, Shake can kind of vouch for me on this. I'm not one of these sugar coaters in the community. I'm going to give it to you 100% how I feel. And again, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. That's the only way I can be. And from what I've learned today about Larry K and watching his opening monologue, that's what I can tell from Larry too. So that's what I appreciate. So Larry, again, thanks for the invite, my brother. And again, you got a fan in me, bro, for real.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate
Lou,
every
hey,
word
Lou,
of that, my bro.
hey,
You got
hey, Lou,
I'm your
Lou.
fan too, bro. I'm gonna be watching you, and I already love the tailgate and everything that goes on. So, bro, I really, really
Hey, Lou,
appreciate
you
the
know-
kind words.
Lou, you know you're a Tua hey, Lou, you're a Tua hater. You're a troller. You just hating on Tua. You know that. You know he's the MVP. You know he is.
This whole panel's nothing but haters, man.
Bro, hey, I
listen, Mountie,
embrace it.
Listen, Mountie, Tua Tagovailoa is good for business. All right, let's say that.
Oh shit, that's about all he's good for.
Hey, Lewis, real quick, let me say this to you real quick, Lewis. I appreciate you for coming on. You know, me and you are down like Bitcoin right now. And at the end of the day, bro, yes, I could vouch for you. Lewis is not Mary Poppins. He's not putting sugar in your medicine. You got to take it straight.
I beg to differ. I think he is Mary Poppins. You don't like what he says?
Man.
He's gonna Mary Poppins you right in the mouth.
I love how Kyrie quotes Wu-Tang when I put protect your neck on every site today because of Mike Glennon. I had to put Wu-Tang protect your neck on every site just because of that. So I love how we're quoting Wu-Tang out here, but that's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, sometimes when you can't see over the line of scrimmage, you got to raise up the periscope.
There you go.
Wow,
Hey,
Kohler.
You gentlemen have a great night. I love
too,
y'all.
brother.
And fins up to everyone, man.
Hey,
Fins up, brother.
Appreciate you,
Hey,
Lou.
Lewis, I'm gonna run through Larry K. I gotta get ready for 10 o'clock, but I appreciate you having me.
Color, love you, brother. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All
Come back
right.
on
Man.
soon. I'll hop on with you
man.
too. Later,
And have a
guys.
good one,
See you,
Shake.
Color.
John, see y'all later, man. Greg.
Later, brother.
ETA. I gotta hit everybody now. That's Mountie over there with no avatar, right? All right.
I might pop up later, Kohler.
Right on, guys.
I'll be watching while I'm making dinner, Color.
Yeah,
So.
I'll definitely
on,
be in the
guys.
chat, but I might pop
I'll
up.
be watching too. Yep.
Right on.
If
Hey,
I don't watch, I'm going to be listening tomorrow morning. So
right on, man. 2024 is our year.
Hey, I'll be the last. I'll be the last Finn's tailgater here.
Hey,
man,
so I want to propose. I got a question, and it might be. Yeah.
I'm sorry, John. Before you go, I'm glad to see I have we have our Washington connection.
Yeah, we're in the house. That's crazy too.
Absolutely, man.
Like, couldn't it be further away from Miami too? But anyways,
me and
we're
John,
holding
we
it
still
down
gotta
from.
catch a game, man.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I agree. I think I was hoping we could catch a playoff game, but we're going to see about that.
Yeah.
But look, I want to propose this question, and it's been burning on my mind, and I really don't want to sound insensitive, but this is the game of football. So, Larry, feel free to shut this down if you need to. All right. But, there was something, and I didn't watch the game. Okay. I was on vacation with my family. I was just getting some news updates. But, the whole situation in Cincinnati with the Buffalo player going down, and it's not pretty. And I don't know what the heck went on out there. But the first thing that popped in my mind, obviously you're worried about player health, but players get hurt all the time. I don't know the severity of it, but I hear they cancel the game. And I thought, well, when do they reschedule? That was one of the first thoughts that popped into my mind. And like I said, I don't want to be insensitive to the subject, but I do wonder because, if this game gets replayed, there are, and say the Dolphins somehow limp into the play, there's implications here to the Dolphins. And granted, I'm down in the dumps about this season. The playoffs, who knows what could happen in there. We'd all have hope if we were to make it. So I'm curious, do you guys think this game gets replayed? If it does, I mean, that adds like a bye week for the playoff teams. This sounds like a terrible situation. I mean, where are you guys at on this, Larry?
They have to play the game. It's just a matter of how and when they're going to do it and flex it in somewhere. But the game, and Mark K actually came up, and he's a big Buffalo fan, and actually worked out the scenarios in which the implications of that game between Buffalo and Cincinnati is huge. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but because of the implications, I just don't see how they don't. How do you? Neither one of them. I'm telling you right now, and just like Mark said, even with Buffalo going in the situation, they're not gonna. There's no way that they're going to be okay with a draw or a tie, and they're not going to, which is I think the only way that you could. Say both teams would have to just call it a tie with no clear winner. And Buffalo's they're not going to subject to that and call it a tie. They're just not.
And I'll to piggyback on that and to answer your question, John, and the conversation's more than welcome on this channel. I wasn't watching the game either. I was watching my Rutgers Scarlet Knights take down #1 Purdue for the second year in a row, this time on the road. I didn't see it. But I'll say this. And I'll say this, which is kind of off topic again, and you guys can disagree with me if you want to, but I already said it publicly on this channel. I made a video. But, Skip Bayless is in poor taste. That being said, we are all going to have this same conversation 2 days later. The guy is still on life support, So he should apologize for the timing, but the way people are reacting, like holier than thou, is a little hypocritical to me because everybody was thinking that in their head, even while they were concerned about the player. They're still wondering about the schedule. And the NFL was definitely having emergency meetings about the scheduling and still is. And we're having that conversation 2 days later. Yes, the timing's better, but acting like it's evil to talk about is silly. It's got to be talked about. That being said, I completely agree, DTA. It's got to be replayed. You cannot not play it because everybody else had to play that game. There's implications to it.
Yep.
How and when they flex it, it's, it's all well and good. And I don't want to sound callous because I'm not. And I care deeply about player safety. I care about this young man. I care about everybody who gets injured. I also care about a lot of other people get injured, a lot of places that we don't seem to emphasize, but that's beside the point. That's a whole nother issue. I'll save it for my political podcast. But I got a lot to say about that too. I'll say this. It's got to be made up, and I understand the feel-good thing about we're not going to even worry about it this week. Got it. Just like McDaniel's not even worried about Tua's status ever because it's just to get healthy. Totally get it. Totally fine. But at the end of the day, in big organizations like the NFL, in football teams with head coaches, etc., the role of a leader, whether it's Goodell, whether it's management, whether it's McDaniel, whether it's the captain on the Titanic or the pilot of a plane that's going down, their job is in the face of chaos and tragedy to still make tough decisions and be stoic. So while I appreciate all of the signaling in public show of affection, the NFL's got to figure it out. They don't have to figure it out tomorrow. I'm not complaining because I don't even care. To John's point, I don't even think we make the playoffs. I don't care if they canceled the whole season because I'm over it already because the Dolphins are so pathetic. So I legitimately don't care. That being said, they got to make up the game and they got to come up with a plan and they got to let people know sometime soon.
Exactly. But if I can just say this.
Yes, you can. Yes.
I hate the Bills as much as everybody in this fan base. But when I didn't
myself included.
I came back. I went to the bathroom, and then I come back. I see an ambulance. I see Diggs and Allen crying, and then I heard something about CPR. Man, I was really gonna tear up. I felt bad for that young man, and then after I heard that, I immediately said a prayer for that young man because once I heard CPR and I saw Diggs and Allen crying, I knew something was going on, and it was very serious. And hopefully, I'm still keeping this man in my prayers. I've been praying before I went to bed. I just hope in a few days here we get some good news about this young man. He is too young to be to leave this planet, and I just hope the best for him. I mean, I do hate the Bills, but I don't wish that to any Bills
player
no. or any player that we're rivals of. But I just hope he gets better.
Yeah, and as much as I hate the Bills, if the man's on life support and the Bills go out and win the Super Bowl, some part of me will still be happy for them because they're playing for him. This goes beyond football, and at the same time, we live in the world, and these discussions are going to take place, and so I think they got to make up the game, and all of us, this show and channel is thinking about the young man. The tailgate took off. We have silence, and hopefully all of us that pray, it's in their prayers, and all of us that put in his thoughts, it's there. And, it's an interesting conversation with player safety, with the cause, and with the scheduling, and it's going to be taking place over the next several weeks. John, go ahead.
So I was actually looking at like the matters of maybe a team wanted to forfeit, maybe one like the Buffalo Bills might say, okay, will you forfeit? I don't actually think that's even within the rule book. There are provisions for a forfeit, but I don't think any of those provisions apply to this situation. So what I think could be going on behind the scenes right now, Larry, is a potential rule change to add a provision to allow for them to maybe cancel the game. Because honestly, I think it would be unfair if the two didn't play to those two teams didn't play to the rest of the league. I also don't know how it's fair to make them play again, like when everyone's off getting rest. So I think this is on. I am aside from the tragedy of the situation, and Grant, hey, I don't want to get political and all that. There's a lot of people in war. There's terrible things happening all around the world, and we hardly celebrate those heroes, So I sympathize for them and for this kid and everything else. But they got to play this game, and I'm looking at it like it's a terrible, terrible, absolutely terrible situation for the NFL. I don't think they could win in any matter. And from that front, I'm curious of how this all unfolds and really what they do, because they're going to be upsetting. At the end of the day, football's going to come back into play on this. And there's going to be fan bases pissed off. And then you're going to see really the true colors of the fan bases and all of that. And I think so. Something's going to go down here. I can't wait to see it. And I'm wondering why they didn't make their decision yet. They might be planning a revision. Maybe they want to see how week 18 works out to see if it does have implications. But this is really something else. Very interesting.
And I think, John, too, we put things in a vacuum, and we try to leave them in a vacuum because we try to show our empathy, and we try to display our empathy, and we try to operate in a current society that is not very conducive or kind to the expression of open thought and people misspeaking or making mistakes. So we are extra cautious when we have these conversations.
Right.
But the fact is, despite the seriousness of the injury, and it is quite serious and it is unprecedented to some extent as far as cardiac arrest, there has been a death on the NFL field in 1971. There have been players who are now quadriplegic. So injury in and of itself, even catastrophic injury, sadly in and of itself, is not unprecedented in football. And the reason I say that is that this didn't also happen in a vacuum. This happened in a season where there's extra scrutiny on the NFL's injury protocols, concussion protocols, player safety, and whether or not team doctors and teams and the NFL itself is acting illicitly when dealing with these types of things and these issues, some of which derive from our own team with Tua. And now this injury happens, it just exacerbates exponentially the attention that's being drawn to this. And I think the reason that's relevant to what you just said is the media, every major media outlet, because in between the fact that our House of Representatives, and I don't want to get political, but cannot elect a leader right now, in between that reporting, the only other thing they're reporting, you have the House not picking a literal leader, and then you have that injury on every major media outlet. The reason I bring that up is, John, whenever they schedule it or even talk about it, or even if they totally don't do it, but the playoffs start, or even they play the games this weekend, the media is going to be hammering them no matter what they do. And they're going to stay on them. And any other injury on TV, especially come the Super Bowl or the playoffs, leading up to the Super Bowl, is going to be just an absolute, I don't know the word to say, so I'm just going to not say any word. It's going to be a lot of reporting, a lot of media attention, a lot of talking heads. They are in a very precarious situation. I don't envy them. At the same time, I don't feel bad for Goodell, because his corporate stooge self and all his nonsense posturing and maneuvering, now he's got to actually do something that's actually hard, and he's actually got to make this call, and no matter what he does, he's in trouble. I don't envy him, but I don't feel bad for him, but I'm curious just what they're going to do. And I welcome anybody else's opinion on that.
Well said, Larry. Jeez, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You should add that to one of your podcasts, by the way, man. You should hit on that subject. I think
Definitely
you can
going
speak
to.
elegantly on it.
Yeah, on the Logic and Larry is definitely coming
Yep.
out soon when I
yeah,
restart
check
that in
that
a
out.
couple weeks.
There's Logic
Check it
on
out,
there.
bro.
You have to check that out. Is that
Logic and
YouTube?
Larry, you could access it and listen to all the old episodes. It's political, it's news oriented, all centrist. So
Is
I
it
don't.
on YouTube?
It's on. I don't know. It's on Apple.
It's on everything. So
It's on all the platforms.
Yeah, if you type in the Logic and
Spotify.
Larry, Logic and Larry podcast in Google, it'll pop up on all platforms, and you could just listen right on Google or listen right on the website. So
Okay, I'll check it out.
yeah, check. I'm restarting that soon, and I'm getting my guest list booked up, and I'm gonna start it again for the winter, and then take off again in the summer. But yeah, I do
Right on.
that podcast too. So I appreciate that. But anybody else's thoughts on this DTA? I mean, you kind of said some already, but any thoughts on this rescheduling? How they do it? What their position is? How they handle it?
My dad says
I'm just shocked that there's more news coverage on when a game is being played than rather our country is being run. But that's another story.
It's true. But yes.
my dad said they might just not even play the game depending on the results.
Yeah, that's
if Kansas City loses, and let's say
that's the thing is but that Kansas City game again also has some bearing on it. But again, I'm looking at this in an aspect where let's be realists for a second. And I just want to take a minute. Just you've already touched on it a bunch, but huge shout out to DeMar Hamlin and his family.
Mm-hmm.
I know his mom was there, had to watch it. It was a terrible incident. There's something about that field at Paycor Stadium. I don't know what it is. We saw the same thing happen. Coincidentally, Teddy Bridgewater had an incident there. Tua had his incident there, and then now DeMar Hamlin.
Don't forget
again,
Ryan Shazier and Antonio Brown.
Right, and he's he's a human man, and he's a young man with his whole life ahead of him. I hope that he comes out okay. Everything well and okay on the other end, but. And this is kind of touchy to talk on, but in my opinion, the NFL at the end of the day is always they'll spin the optics however they need to look best for them. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and that game is money for them. And on top of it being money for them, it also has implications. You factor both those things in. Believe me when I tell you, they will find a way. We know. Especially what happens, or depending on what happens with this Kansas City game, the Buffalo Bills are not going to, give into a forfeit or a draw or tie. I think it's going to be played. I think that they're just and the last updates that I read is that apparently the commissioner, amongst others, have been in contact constantly with, Sean McDermott and all the coaching staff there. But they haven't really addressed. They've barely touched the topic of replaying the game. It's really just been about DeMar and how he's doing and updates with that. But so far at this point, their game against the Patriots, for example, that's scheduled, or that's not being flexed or moved at all. That's right on schedule. They already said that they're going to play that game. So why would they play that game and then not play the Cincinnati game that has implications for them? I mean, heck, they all do in their position that they're in now. When you're talking in terms of a first round bye, it's again, it's also the business aspect, right? And the NFL is the NFL. They're always going to be what they are. And I'm sorry, I know what the NFL is. I know that they can play face with everybody and they can play pretty in the optics of it, but we all know what they care about. We all know what's driving, what the driving force is behind the NFL. I say they play it. They're going to play it. I don't know how. And again, that's where I'm trying to break it down to see how they schedule it or where they flex it or where they put it. Because the only thing I know it's been talked about, maybe they postpone playoffs, push that out a week, or, maybe they add an extra week, or maybe they make a deal with Amazon Prime and make it late Thursday game, or who knows? There's several different scenarios in which they could do this to make it work, but I know that they will.
Well, you make a good point. John, go ahead.
And it's happened to two of the better teams, so Buffalo and Cincinnati, right? So I don't know how they could just flex it to a Thursday night and say, here, play here, play here, play here, go to the playoffs. I don't know that they're not going to sign up for that. There's no way Buffalo or Cincinnati are going to show up for Thursday night and do it. I don't see that. So really what I see is them probably having to push the playoffs back a week to squeeze this game in. And even there, now that really gives competitive advantages to all of the other teams. Imagine the team, and then also on the flip side, imagine the team in the NFC winning the number 1 seed. Now they're getting, 2-3 weeks off before they play any football? Like, this is going to change everything. And DTA, to your point, this league is motivated by money, from the merchandise we buy to the TV deals, to the advertisement, to the seats, to everything about the branding of the league is all about money. So you would think that they're probably going to get the game in, but yeah, I think I cannot wait to see how this thing unfolds. And I think the only logical way is either cancel it or they got to push the playoffs back 1 week. Now, DTA, you mentioned it. Do you see the league doing like a Thursday flex, or do you just think that's? I mean, obviously it's probably on the table, but legitimately, do you see that happening?
Yes, I do. I think everything's on the table at this point, and I think that they have. Again, like I said, you can make it a Thursday or a Monday night. They have different options where you can make it a doubleheader if they need to. I think everything's money driven and money. Like I said, at the end of the day, the NFL can play pretty and come out here and make face with all of us. We know what it is. I don't think any of us are dumb to that. The game's got to be played. And again, now that could have bearing. I think that things are heading in that direction also. If you take a look at, and maybe this is just my wild take here, but if you take a look at the fact that it's hard to say this, but in DeMar's case, DeMar is making progress, right? He's making progress in the right direction, which is good to hear. Now, I would say if that was at a stalemate right now, or the condition was worsening, maybe that would have some bearing if the game's played. But because he's headed in the right direction and making progress, I think solely because of that as well, that adds a factor to why the teams are both going to be willing to play the game over. Again, like imagine if he was at a stalemate or his condition was worsening, I'd imagine that none of them would be in the mood to play, and they probably still aren't. But the fact that he's being taken care of, they have his vitals back, he's down to 50% oxygen. He's still intubated. For those that don't know, he is still intubated, and not breathing fully on his own. But he is headed in the right direction. Doctors just needed a couple days before they could assess any type of damage, if at all. I think all these things, on top of the fact that game is a lot of money to the league, it has to be played, and you have the factor of it, all the implications that it has. It's got to be played. Now, I don't know if they when you have a full schedule in the weeks, I would say it's probably more likely going to fall like in a Thursday or maybe a Monday, and they'll do a doubleheader, something like that. I saw what Kenna was talking about. That could be, another option.
I saw that too. Go ahead and say what he said, DTA, because I was going to address it. You're talking, so just
let me pull it up here. I had it up just a second ago. So they said they're going to push the AFC back a week and give the number 1 seed 3 weeks off. So essentially, what exactly what I said earlier is they're going to push the playoffs back a week, essentially. And that's going to allow time to put flex a game in there and have it replayed.
And remember this, the Pro Bowl is in between the championship weekend and the Super Bowl. So everybody made arrangements for the Super Bowl, like hotels and stuff. You can't really push that. But you could easily have Pro Bowl festivities on Saturday or earlier or later and still have the playoffs.
Or you can push the Pro Bowl back a week so that people at the Super Bowl that go to the Super Bowl could go to the Pro Bowl if you just push it back like a week.
Yeah, and also you can just move the Pro Bowl all the way back after it.
Yeah, it's only like flag football and skills. So
So here's something else that's kind of interesting with this. I mean, Tua had and I know it's not the same, but Tua had a nasty injury on that field, and it didn't look pretty. And they hauled his butt off on an ambulance, and they went back out there and played, right? So I'm feeling some kind of way about that, to be honest with you. But do you think this changes how the NFL goes with these things forward, or do you think they're going to try and sweep this under the rug and play games? Because players get hauled off on ambulances, and there's some nasty stuff on that field. Are we getting stoppages of play now?
No.
If I could touch on that real quick, the thing is, I guess, and this is all, again, it's all come down to our opinion. But I thought about that, John, and I specifically more so thought about the situation with Tua, and that the guys went back out, and you could just tell that it took the wind out of the sails for everybody. Nobody wanted to continue to play. You could just see it. You could see it on the
Right.
sideline, at least with the
Their
Miami Dolphins,
their
right?
guy went down to the
But-
hospital.
Right, but again, it's hard to say because at that I remember vividly at that point they're speculating as if it was a head or neck injury. They didn't know what happened. Now the situation with DeMar's a little bit different. You had a guy that he basically died twice on the field. He went into cardiac arrest. They had to give CPR and bring him back.
CPR is violent. If anyone's ever seen CPR performed, it is absolutely brutal.
Now with Tua, it was just a really bad, like the kid, he was concussed and obviously he was having ataxia and all that. But I don't know. I think like the optics of it, the thing with DeMar's, it's just such a that to me, if you were to put it on a scale, which I hate to compare the two even to do that, but that to me, the optics of it being broadcasted nationally, and then the players watching that happen, and having to see your teammate being worked on, where they have to bring out the further than what they had to witness with Tua. Maybe that's what made the call at that point.
I agree.
I don't know any point where they thought, hey, Tua died from this.
You broke up. You were breaking up a little, DTA.
I was saying with DeMar, the differences with DeMar in between him and Tua. With Tua, I don't think that there was ever a moment where you thought that he was going to lose his life over this. But DeMar, it was clear. It was clear from the jump that he may not survive this, and he actually did clinically die on the field. So I think that's where the difference is. And I hate to compare the two, right?
That is a big difference. So, and then maybe, and I think that's warranted. The guy literally did die on the field. They had to do the CPR. I mean, canceling the game. But I guess my thing was, are they going to get a little more strict about this kind of thing, or is this a one-off? Just what a crazy situation that really is.
Yeah, John, I was thinking the same thing as you. Wait, how come they didn't do it for us? But then when I heard the CPR, I'm like, that is probably why it is another level.
They probably cut his shoulder pads, everything off. I mean, it was probably something just horrific.
I would say this too, though. It's compounded. It didn't happen in a vacuum. So the Tua injury is part of the reason that this was worse. Like it was already on. They already saw that. Now this is one level up. And it happened after that, which has already been discussed ad nauseum all year. And Tua just got another concussion that's all over the news. So nothing happens in a vacuum. I think it's a confluence of issues with this one injury that made it a special thing.
Absolutely.
I don't think it happens. I don't think they stop games going forward unless it's that severity again. I don't think so. But that's my opinion. No one knows.
The one last thing I want to say, I'll make it quick too. I don't mean to, overtalk anybody or over.
You're good, DTA.
You're good, bro.
The one thing, John, too, is, I was thinking about this, right? All day, and I've heard, and I don't mean to name drop or anything like that, but I'm sure everyone's familiar with Stevie D and the Clockblockers, and I know they were talking about safety, and that was being the prime thing that their talking point. Well, I agree. You could always, I don't think that there's any set amount, right? There's always more things to be researched and developed for safety on the field. But at the end of the day, what happened with DeMar, more than likely, and again, this is speculation. It has not been confirmed. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the video. It's called commodus porus or something like that.
Yes.
I can't remember. You know what I'm talking about? It's
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
That it literally could happen to any of us on the panel or anybody, not just athletes. You literally, if you get, it's not an underlining thing, because at first people were saying, well, maybe he had a heart murmur, blah, blah, blah. No. All that has to happen is you have to get a certain hit. You have to get hit you have to get hit hard enough, have a certain level of trauma to that area by your heart at just the right millisecond of a time window to basically send you into arrhythmia, and that automatically puts you into cardiac arrest.
Yes.
It's basically stopping your heart and changing the rhythm of it between its polarizing and depolarizing stage. And I don't know that there's nothing. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to create pads. I mean, make everybody wear a flak jacket. What more can you do to prevent something like that? Now, a concussion, yeah, you could do research into helmets and yada, 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 and this and that. But something like this is just a freak thing that sadly, I don't know that you can protect against more. I mean, and that's a conversation I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion. Cause like, what are you going to do? You're going to have someone wear a flak jacket that goes all the way around your sternum and everything. I mean, what do you do?
To me, number one, I have had an issue with AFib before, which one incident, and I wound up, now I get monitored and I got to lose some weight and I get, take some medications, and it's not chronic. I mean, it's chronic by definition, so I could get another episode ever. I could get one since I had one once. But my point is, it's scary. I know a lot about arrhythmias and how, there's heart attack is like a blockage that builds up and you have pain and you usually can survive that. Whereas cardiac arrest is when a lot of people refer to cardiac arrest as a heart attack. Like, oh, this guy died of a heart attack. That guy, it's when it suddenly stops with the rhythm problem, not the artery problem, and people die from it. To answer your question, I thought about this too. And the fact is, the cold hard fact is, football is violent, and this is a tragic but rare occurrence. And this that particular condition actually occurs more in baseball, lacrosse,
right,
where there's a projectile that hits you in the chest. And this, if you do a quick Google search, sadly, it actually affects teenagers the most. And a lot of, I don't want to say a lot because it's rare, but the most of the deaths that have occurred relatively frequently enough for it to be like a legitimate conversation among medical professionals, is it happens in high school sports like lacrosse, baseball. Players have died from this, from getting hit with a ball. And my point in saying all that is, I don't think you can do anything, because I think just like car accidents, plane crash, like you do as much as you possibly can to protect people from tragedy. If this was a regular occurrence, then you would either stop playing or you would have to specifically do something. But if this is a freak occurrence, and we all pray and hope it never happens again to anybody, if this is a freak occurrence, I don't think there's anything you can do. I think sometimes, sadly, accidents and tragedies rarely but do happen. And I don't know that we can do anything. And I don't know that anything was done. Like, I heard some people on the radio saying, oh, the hit was too hard, the hit was dirty, the pads, the NFL.
Wow.
There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you could do for this particular injury. Go ahead.
You're right.
Stop blaming T. Higgins, everybody that it's not his fault.
He feels like shit, I'm sure.
And I'm sure
absolutely.
T. Higgins is feeling like a total a-hole right now.
And he didn't do anything.
And we got people like Bart Scott out here.
Yes, Bart Scott, bro.
And that disgusting comment of him blaming him. And just for people that don't know, T. Higgins has been at the hospital nonstop by the side of DeMar.
And DTA, what did Bart Scott say? Because I listened to the other channel in New York. ESPN is Bart Scott, and WFAN is where I listen. I turned on WFAN yesterday just in time to hear Craig Carton, who I'm a fan of. I know he got in trouble, but he's great. I heard him going off against Bart Scott, but I didn't hear what Bart Scott said.
To sum it up, these guys, or Greg might even know, I don't know verbatim what he said. I just remember him talking about something about how it was something that the NFL tried to regulate, but they don't really regulate it that much anymore. And basically saying that like T. Higgins lowered his crown of his helmet, and basically, I don't know if he, because honestly I can't quote it because I don't remember what he said, quote, but it was something to the effect of that.
Watch it. I don't remember what he said, but
if you have it, Greg, pull it up. Greg, you heard Carton too talking about it?
About T. Higgins, this and that. But I watched Chris Eisen's take on it.
Eisen, now I badmouth a lot of people in here, but I love Eisen.
Yeah, his helmet, he kind of throws his body into his chest. He's standing up because he's thinking he's got
I'll rewind it real quick.
Rewind it.
But I want to say this real quick.
What exactly did T. Higgins do last night to him? Well, right before the tackle, he lowers his helmet and he kind of throws his body into his chest. He's standing up because he's thinking he's got to chase T. Higgins at an angle to make a tackle. So he didn't expect T. Higgins to launch his body back into him. It's one of those things. A lot of times you sit as a linebacker, unblocked, unengated running back comes through the hole, and he knows the contact's coming, so he lowers his helmet, and you can't get underneath him, so he's able to get into you, and your chest is exposed. So they've taken that out of the game, but they don't really regulate it as much as possible. I expect the league will be a lot more vigilant when it comes to that and using that penalty. Right.
So now running backs can't lower their when you do
Right,
tackling
right.
drills, you're taught to lower your shoulder and take the impact. Otherwise,
Right.
you're going to get hurt. That they should teach me. You can't stand there. You got to take the impact. I think
Yeah.
you can't get. Football is already too technical with some of these hits where penalties are leveled,
Yeah.
and because they're trying to be super safe, I get it. But at a certain point, can you?
They literally, Larry, they teach you to run through the tackle.
Yes.
You have to, or like you
or you
said,
get
Larry,
hurt.
you're going to get hurt.
We all play ball, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
And when I was
I played ice hockey and I played football.
Mhm.
I fought semi-professionally for a while. Did MMA,
Nice.
so I've been in all these physical sports. I know how it is. And another thing, like I got challenged yesterday because I was talking about the whole thing with Tua and his concussion thing gone up. And just for those that don't know, while we're on this type of subject, I made the argument that some people are just more prone, which you see it a lot of times too in fighters, right? Some people are more prone to being knocked unconscious and getting concussion, stuff like that. And in concussion specifically, for those that don't, this is published in many medical journals. And I don't know, this is speculation. I don't know that Tua has this issue, but I'm just saying, for some people, it is a genetic thing. You are more susceptible to concussions because of your genetics and lacking whatever it is that kills your brain during any type of trauma.
Right.
You lack those. And the way that your genetic code is built, you can be more susceptible to concussions. So, I mean,
it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that everybody's body's different, just like an illness. I mean, I know people, and I don't want to broach that subject. There's another subject so sensitive these days, but like, dude, I live in an apartment building, a high rise in the middle of a city. And sadly, when COVID was going around in March, I was never afraid of it because I just wasn't, but I still was like being vigilant for other people. I got it and it was like nothing. I had the flu a couple weeks and it was like terrible. The guy across the hall from me, who was not that much older than me, died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I heard the ambulance. I'm like, what? He died. So my point in saying that is everybody's body is different and different things affect them differently, like period, you know?
While you're on that too, Larry, did you see the whole mess? Now there's people coming out and basically they're trying to say that what happened to DeMar Hamlin was because he got the COVID shot.
Say it. I've been I have a crazy on my I'm friends with him, but like, dude, every time anybody dies, he just goes, and like, and that he just speculates wildly with no foundational basis that it's the COVID vaccine. And yeah, that's a big thing in the tinfoil community right now, sir.
But yeah,
that's the thing. They're trying to say it's because of that. He got the vaccine, and they're saying that's why.
Dude.
I'm not going to jump on that.
I know, but I just appreciate. It's just funny to me, real quick, that certain people share football opinions, and then when they start talking about other subjects, they still have a semblance of the same logic with each other, because I guess you can sense who can have good conversations and who can't.
Well, there's like this guy I seen that got hit with a semi-automatic semi truck. He died because of the COVID shot.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, he did.
It's ridiculous, bro.
So going full circle here, I actually think this injury affects Tua to the point to where, like, when I heard that was going down in Cincinnati, I had also thought about like Tua and his concussion protocol, and does the NFL really even want him out there? Ooh. Then I got to thinking, hell, do they even want the Jets winning or the Dolphins winning the game? They'll fix it so we don't win. Like, they don't want to see Tua at all costs, because there's already enough bad publicity going around about the league. And if Tua's already had 2 concussions, and say he does get to come back, and say miraculously we make a playoff game, and for some reason we put him in there and he gets hurt, like, I don't know. This is probably one of the worst things that honestly could have happened to Tua in his NFL career. I don't know what the NFL is going to do, but I think if they had half a mind, they might block him from ever coming back. I don't even know if that's possible, but I mean, honestly, I was thinking about that guy. Well, what do you think, Larry? Do you think there might be some
I don't think they will. And I know I think you're right that they would love if he didn't, because they don't want to deal with the risk, the league itself. I don't think they can or will prevent him. They didn't the first time. I think he's got to seriously think about it. On the other hand, we hear about, like, again, with attention and media attention, I've heard, like, because everybody throws out examples, like, guys have had 6 concussions, 5 concussions, and no one says anything. Tua had 3, and it's the end of the world, but it's 3 in quick succession. I don't think they'll prevent him. I sure think there's plenty of people that would love not to see him come back because they don't want to deal with the publicity anymore in case he gets hurt again. And he's obviously susceptible to it. The guys who had 6, they probably shouldn't be playing either, and maybe 2 shouldn't either. Maybe it's just not for you, man. My buddy played D1 ball. Now he's a coach, and he had an injury that wasn't nearly as significant, but it was bad enough, and it was a back injury that in college they were like, bro, you keep playing, you might not walk at some point. Like you should just stop. And he stopped.
I see what you're saying. So if Tua comes back and he gets hurt, the league will deal with it. They ain't going to like it, but they'll deal with it if they have to.
They don't have
I have a theory on that, okay? And I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for my show, but I'm going to touch on it real quick because you brought it up, and I was sitting here, I was rubbing my palms together right when you said it. All right, now I got a hold of Kohler and all them in the group chat, and I immediately, when this thing happened with Damar, I said, you watch. This is going to have some type of indirect effect on what's going on with Tua and his situation. Now, and to touch on what Larry said, honestly, bro, I don't think it would matter if Tua had 8 concussions. It's about the optics. He arguably had 3. We know he for sure had 2, okay? Let's just be real about it. Now, I'm not saying he did or didn't in that first Buffalo game in week 3. I don't know. Nobody knows, okay? But it's the optics. It's because of how publicized it was and how big it was in the media is what drove it to be such a big thing, right? Now, with Tua, I guarantee you, again, now him being in another concussion and back in protocol, and then this thing happening with Damar, the NFL is looking at this kid and going, okay, this just happened. We need to address, the elephant in the room. It's Tua is a liability. Tua is a liability, and I guarantee you that they're thinking to themselves, they don't want anybody to feel be responsible for anything like that. Now, I don't know that they can, forcefully push him out, but they for damn sure will have some type of say in it one way or another, whether that's, swaying his decision or putting pressure on him. The league, in one form or another, because of this incident with Damar, is going to put that, it's changing the perspective for him now that seeing what happened with Damar and then seeing Tua as a liability and him coming back. He certainly, in my opinion, won't be back this season. Now, in regards to next season, I don't know. You have his family. There's reports coming out that he's got his mom, his dad, and his family and his wife no longer want him to play. But again, that's Tua's decision. But I wholeheartedly believe that there's going to be some type of indirect correlation here and that there's going to be pressure from the league on Tua or maybe to his agent or the people around him or whatever, or the organization to push him out because he's a liability and they don't need somebody dying on the field. And I'm saying that in terms of like what the league would say, right? That's not my words. Like, I get it. I feel for both of them. So
I could see it. And by the way, I'm bringing RD on, but we're going to do final thoughts because we've been on 3 hours and I got to log off in a couple. But RD, your first thought's going to be your final thought, and then we're going to go around and forget everybody's final thoughts. So
hey,
what's
RD.
on your mind, brother?
What's going on, RD?
Guys. I've been following. I've been listening on the backdrop, man. I just didn't have it in me to even show up. Like, it's all over, man. It is all over. We're back, not square one. Not square one. We have found a new bottom, and I know this is final thoughts, and I just want to take 1 minute. There's no way, no how, there's any hope for this team. I'm talking about Super Bowls. I'm not talking about being relevant. I'm not talking about making the playoffs. I'm not talking about being mediocre. I'm talking about Super Bowl. Our core, all right, and I'm talking about quarterback and coach, these are not Super Bowl guys. They're just not. They're never going to be, ever. They don't have it in them. You have to understand when you're competing for a Super Bowl, you're competing with the upper echelon teams, and you see what they have. You don't have that. You don't even have it anywhere close. So you're going to be a pretender. Just the very best we can do is be a good pretender. Okay? And that's it. And that's if everything goes according to plan. So until we get our franchise QB, step one, until we have a coach where we can look at him and be like, you know what? He's special because of this games, because of this talent, that he has drafted because of this type of play schemes that he constantly whips out in key situations. I feel comfortable with this guy talking post game. I feel comfortable with him handling the timeouts, handling the challenges. Until we get a guy that we can unanimously, year after year, say, you know what, this is the guy. And then next year we say, no, this is the guy. Last year we kind of wished he was the guy and we said he's the guy, but no, he's every year. Until we find that type of consistency, right? One thing we know as a franchise, as a fan base, the Miami Dolphins, we know what doesn't work. We know it. We know it better than anybody.
Yes.
This shit does not work. I don't want my quarterback and I don't want my coach coming in with the same bullshit excuses after games go to the shitter. Okay.
Watch
I
the
don't
S
want
word
the
a little if you
same.
can. I know you're mad, but
I don't want.
YouTube's fighting me on the S word and F word. So just
Yeah,
letting you know.
sorry about that.
It's all
Yeah,
good.
no, I won't
All
do that.
good.
I don't want the same. I don't want the same mistakes, and making me feel like, oh, we got to work on it. No, you had your chance. You have in the NFL, you get a chance to fix your mistakes. If you don't, it is over. There's no one's gonna give you 3, 4, 5 years for you to figure it out and become a veteran coach and a veteran QB, right? And not make the mistakes that we've been doing now since Tua got drafted. Like, it's just not gonna work out. Tua is not durable. Tua has too many limitations. Okay, the ship has sailed, and when we drafted Tua, it was a different world. It was a different league. Okay, Deshaun Watson and all the other guys with Mahomes and Allen and all these guys, they were just coming into the league. Because remember, the draft was 2017. They didn't really flash until 2019, right?
Yes.
And in 2019, we see the flashes, but there's only a few of them. And all of a sudden, we're like, oh, they look good, but it's still a pocket passer league. Well, that's no longer the case. So if your QB is not a dual threat QB, you don't have a QB. You don't have a franchise QB. It's a different league now. It has changed on a whim. These are the guys who are constantly going to be in the Super Bowl. Okay, I understand the NFC doesn't have the same type of talent, even though Aaron Rodgers is coming back from the dead.
Yeah.
The quarterback class, the quarterback class in the NFC is totally like they're falling behind, right? But that's not our problem. Our problem is we're in the AFC and we're gonna get our cream of the crop, challengers. So we, in no way, shape, or form, do we have a shot at being legitimate contenders. We need a new head coach. It's over for this guy. Okay, you do not lose 5 in a row. You do not lose 3 in a row when Tua is not playing. You just don't do that. Brian Flores, dude, finished the season 5-4 versus the GOAT. He beat him at it. Like, come on, man. It's done. The guy finished 7-1, and then he finished, I don't know what, 6-3. He finished or 7 and like ridiculous 9-3. He finished the second season. Like, there's no way. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Mike McDaniels had his shot. This was it. He had the team. All he had to do was win one damn game in his last 5. I don't care even if we make the playoffs now. It's irrelevant. Dude, if going into week 18, you're not in the playoffs.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
It's done.
Yeah.
It's
no,
done.
I agree.
There's no silver lining. I expect everyone to be let go. Greer's got to go. You can't go through 2 head coaches and still be the GM. And we have to go back to square one, and it is what it is. I don't like our owner. Nobody does. Nobody's crazy about, especially now that the picks have been compromised. Nobody likes this guy. But getting rid of an owner is not as easy as people think. And say what you want about him, right? He just wants to win, just like everyone else. He just doesn't know how.
He has
but
no idea how. He should just stay out of it.
At the very least, as a fan base, we have to call what's not working right away, okay? And by right away, I mean give it we gave Tua enough time, dude. It's over. It is. I don't want to see one Tua near. Anybody who shows up as a Tua near now, you are delusional and you're not a Miami Dolphin fan at all. because that ship has sailed. The man, it is what it is. You have to. I was the biggest Tua fan. All right, I was excited when we drafted him. I stood up behind him even when the Deshaun Watson and all that stuff was going around. This year when he was struggling, I was like, you know what? We got 3 more games. He better turn it around. It just didn't work out. It's time to move on. You have got to call it what it is. It's over for us. Okay, we're back to square one, and we need a new GM, new coach, and we have to use all of our assets that we have now, try to turn them into future assets, into draft picks. Okay, no more half-ass. Tank like a like I don't want to swear,
Yeah, don't
but
swear.
tank. Go back to the tanking. We're okay with tanking because tanking, there's promise for the future. Mediocrity, there's nothing. The future is dead, and definitely the president has nothing to offer. So it is fundamentally over. Forget about the playoffs. One and done is not going to get it. Like
We agree on that. Yeah.
Like I said, there is just nothing to be optimistic about it. Everyone should be irate. We've been had again. Okay, fool's gold again. The 8-3 start. Okay, we thought in 2020 we would turn a corner because we got our future QB and we got a great coach. It was all we made a terrible mistake. We're paying for it as Dolphins fan, but we have to move on. Bringing back this people, Greer and McDaniels and Tua next year, and having nothing change, then it's going to be a lot worse than we thought. Dude.
I agree with you, RD. And by the way, is that a new picture of you at that table there?
That's my realtor photo. Yes.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah,
bro.
by the way,
that's a nice
suit,
photo, bro. It's swaggy.
Thank you.
I love the suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's swaggy, bro. I like it. And
Thank
you for
guys.
those thoughts and for venting, sir. We
Thank
are going to
you,
be
thank
back. Who cares what happens this week? We all agree. But, bro, it's been great. Even though it took you a while, it's great to hear from you tonight. I'm glad you showed up and dropped that on us, bro. I'm glad.
For sure, guys. I'm following you guys. Don't worry about it. I try to get in as much as I can.
All good,
Thank you
brother.
for having me, Larry. I appreciate it, buddy.
Come back soon, brother. Well, I'll talk to you soon, my bro.
Have a great night, guys. Thank you again.
Later, bro.
Fins up.
And I got to get out of here, Larry. I don't know if I could just final thoughts real quick.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
Man, I already left, but I want to say, man, I hear you. I 1000% hear you. I hear you, man, and I'm on board with that. The problem is, you tell me a Super Bowl team that tanked to get where they were, and the problem is, you got guys like Tyreek Hill and people on our team. They're not going to tank. How do you how do you coach and tell players like that to go out and lose intentionally and not play? And we're not, unfortunately, we're like in that limbo stage, right? Like we can't necessarily tank and start to rebuild over, but we also don't have any draft capital or anything to, you know what I mean? Now, the best thing we can do, our quarterback situation's up in the air. I think if we play this whole thing right, we can somehow work this out and come out on top. You got guys like Tyreek and Waddle and hell, lots of guys on the team that they play to win. And guys like Tyreek care about his legacy. Yes, I know he's won a Super Bowl. Yes, he's got a ring. But that guy does not he's not the type of player that's going to go to a team to die. Okay? You keep that stuff up and you see, because I don't care what his contract says, he'll find a way out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've got to play this right. You've got to, you have to take, you got to go in there and take control of the situation. You got to make your adjustments with the coaching staff. Bring in I'd say bring in it, because I think honestly the scapegoating is going to be on the defensive side of the staff. Bring in a good defensive coordinator. And I, for one, think the defense did pretty well, all things considered. I'm not one of those guys that uses the defense as a scapegoat. I hear that a lot from like 2 years, but
yeah, it's not. They're not the reason. That's for sure.
Right. Absolutely. This this team was predicated on the offense being able to ones to carry us. But you gotta go in there and use the assets we have. You're gonna have to go in and renegotiate contracts. You're gonna have to go in and get rid of guys like the Byron Jones, maybe even Mike Gesicki's. I'd hate to see Wilkins go. That's someone I think that yeah, we may be able to get draft capital back for it, but how bad is it going to handicap us? You just got to play the situation right and make the moves with what we have to turn it into something. Because, and another thing too, I don't think that this is to me is not a problem that we go address in the draft. We don't need another young quarterback that we have to develop. We have Skyler. Let's let him develop properly, see what he has, because he has a potential to have a high ceiling. Bring in a veteran bridge quarterback.
Yeah,
this is
no,
not something we
I
need
think
to address again in the draft.
at this juncture, we have enough talent, especially with some healthy guys coming back on D and the guys in the
Right.
offense. I'm not at a tanking place right now, but we need some changes, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Not at tanking, though. I'm not there yet. But I understand RD's frustration because he's like, just throw it away again. We failed again, which so far we did fail again, but you know, we gotta pivot.
And I agree with him on that front. It's been an egregious fail, especially if he missed the playoffs, which, hey, my opinion, I don't care about the playoffs. I'd rather not make them just to get embarrassed. I want to go into the playoffs with the ability to compete, right? Like the end game for us always has to be just like it is any NFL team. The end game, like you compete and you go out there and play for a Super Bowl championship. You compete and play for a ring. It's not these guys are not out there competing for any type of attaboy or a participation trophy for making it to a playoff or getting into a playoff game.
Right.
Or for some people like, oh, well, maybe we can win one and then get knocked out in the second. No, you compete to make it all the way. And I believe we've got the talent to do so. We just have to correct a couple things. But if, we're at that critical spot where you do it wrong, you're going to screw up everything. And we're going to be in the same boat for years to come. You do it right, you can right this wrong and get us a captain for this ship. And I think we can turn it around in that, because right now we're built to win. And I would give it like a 3-year window. If you do things right, you play things right, I think we can turn this around. So I just want to say that, man. Larry, I always appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on my show the other day. And again, I want you to come up as a special guest here soon.
Let's schedule it, bro.
John, Greg, all you guys. Love all you guys. And I will definitely be back, man.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me up, Larry.
Always a pleasure, DTA. Come back anytime and let's schedule. I'll come on as a special guest with you. Your show's great too, man, and everything you guys do over there is great. So it was an absolute pleasure as always, my brother.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon, bro.
All right, bro.
John from Seattle.
All right, hey, I'll make it quick. Man, I'll tell you what, this team has me feeling depressed. I feel down. I feel used and abused. It's been a freaking long road. I'm just going to paint a little situation and say a little something we haven't spoken about. Skylar Thompson, he came out last week. He basically played a quarter. We threw the ball 22 times. Frankly, I thought the guy did not look very good. Other than he did have a couple hot passes. He was off target on a lot. I think it's a tough spot for him to come in. But here's where I'm at. Skylar's going to come in this week. He's actually going to do pretty darn good. He's going to put up one of those performances where, like, dang. And he's going to stay healthy, and we're going to be like, dang, wish we had this all year. The Dolphins are going to win the game, but it won't matter because the Patriots are going to win, all right? Because the Buffalo Bills are down and out. Their guys hurt. They're not motivated. They don't care. Patriots are. So that's the way I see it going. And it's even going to get worse, okay, because Skylar is going to play so well. I think he's going to play really well to the point all off season we're going to be like, oh, we got Skylar. And what's going to happen is a whole new coaching staff's going to come in here and we're going to freaking trade Skylar for nothing. All right. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. But we'll have all year to talk about Skylar over Tua. And this whole freaking cycle is not going to end at all. We're stuck in misery. I love you guys. You're the only bright spot of my Dolphin fandom, frankly. So anyways, that's all I got. I'll talk to you guys later.
John, love it. Talk to you later, my brother.
Bye.
Peace, bro. Greg.
Yo.
I love how you do your whole work shift, chime in, drive home, all on here, and then get on at home. It's amazing. I mean, it's great stuff. It's legendary stuff.
Yeah, I know.
So what's up, bro? What's your final thought?
We're going to talk about this game because I personally, we're not going to talk about Jim in this final segment or another coach or another quarterback. We're going to save that for next week. Now, what I see happening in the Jets game, there's two things we can see. Number one, Skylar balls out. Somehow we make the playoffs, and Skylar leads us to our first playoff win in 20-something years. Okay, that's the first option.
Wow.
How likely that is? Probably like a 5% chance. Second thing's going to happen is, number two, Skylar Thompson, let's say he gets hurt somehow. We have to see Mike Glennon come in, okay? The entire team just quits like they did Adam Gase. And then Mike McDaniel, see you later. Chris Greer, we'll see you in the president. See, we're not going to be the GM. We'll get a new GM. We'll get a new quarterback. And I'm honestly believing the second option is going to happen. We are going to lose this game 35-3. I'm going to say it all week. We are losing 35-3, and then we can get excited for the next day when they're all gone. And
Yes.
smooth again, and hopefully it's not a rebuild. It's kind of a retool, reset type thing, and we go find a quarterback that can win, get a coach. It's been proven. Man, I'm excited because for this offseason, but guess what? If none of that, we can talk about Jim, we can talk about Lamar, we can talk about every coach, we can talk about all these quarterbacks. It's not going to happen. They're going to Stephen Ross will do nothing. He will sit there, keep Greer. McDaniel will stay, and Tua will be our starting quarterback next season, guys. Stop.
I believe it.
You're getting your hopes up.
Yeah,
Tua will be our quarterback. I'm getting my hopes up, just like the rest of y'all. But don't be surprised when Tua is starting for us next year, and we go through the same thing we went through this year, and that's all I got.
I love it, and you're right. And I can't wait to see Mike Glennon out there with his giraffe neck, just go gadget neck, and just throwing it.
How is he still in the league? He sucks.
He's not in the league until we brought him back.
Exactly.
Later,
Ridiculous.
Greg. Later, Greg. Talk to you soon. I'll talk to you on Instagram, bro. Later.
Listen.
Shake.
Final thoughts. This franchise is the type of franchise that sells their car for gas money. All right.
Jesus Christ. Yes.
Let me tell you something. And I want to iterate what he says. We're going to open up the door, and we're going to go outside. We're going to be all excited because we got our package, our UPS package, and turn around and find out we locked ourselves out of the house. That's how it is with the playoffs. We got our package, but Buffalo loses, and we're locked out of our house.
Yes. Bro, I believe it. I do. I just, yes. I mean, what else can we say? That's it.
Nothing, man. You got to laugh not to cry, my brother.
Yes, I agree.
But, hey, man, I'll be back next week for sure. And let me tell you something. Not this week, but the next week, I'm going to be on vacation. So that Wednesday, I'm going to pop that bottle, playoffs or not, because I got to pop it at one point.
Yeah, true.
Yes. So either way, that thing's going to get open. Fins up. Be safe, y'all.
Later, Shake. Guys, thank you for joining another episode of LG Shaking the Panel. Thank you for joining the Phin-Addict Fury channel in general with your host, Larry K. If you haven't seen my other content yet, go ahead and check it out. Tune into this. It's Wednesday nights at 7. We might move it at some point to Tuesdays. When the off season comes, we're probably going to take some time off maybe and then shuffle it around, and we'll figure out the schedule for the off season. But either way, man, thank you to all the newcomers who tuned in. If you haven't done so yet, anybody watching, hit subscribe really quick. It's greatly appreciated. Thank everybody, especially KP, but everybody else who donated, Jericho, everybody who donated, Mycelium, everybody who donated today with the super chat. It's greatly appreciated. Does a ton for the channel. Thank you, everybody who came up on the panel and participated. We have regulars, and then we have newcomers. Everybody's welcome on the panel. That's what the show is about. Such good insight. Tech me out. Thank you so much for the compliments on the channel. Tell your friends about the channel. Share the videos. Share the channel. Let people know what we got going on here. I think we really do have some great conversations, and we really do, approach everything more cerebrally and from a collaborative, conversational approach that I think works well for us and for Fins fans everywhere. So everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Subscribe, and I will talk to you after this Jets game. I can't follow up too much more because Shake was too funny. I don't want to go out without, just go out on his laughter, and we'll end it there. Talk to you guys next week.
I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day.